Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the weekend edition of Encrypted Connections. I'm your host, Kyle, and tonight I'm thrilled. I'm honored. I don't even know what adjectives to use. This is a huge deal for me. I watched every single episode of the show that this man produced, and I've probably watched them over many times. I also watched the Bigfoot science documentary and the Giant Squid. I mean, I probably watched everything you've made. So this is a huge deal for me. Everybody, ladies and gentlemen, this is Doug Hajicek. How are you, Doug?
I'm doing good. It's Friday today?
It's Friday, yeah.
Yeah. Well, see, how can you be doing wrong? I just had a big supper. Got to see my daughter. Yeah, it's been a fun day.
That's awesome. That's good. So we're going to do a little something different tonight. I vape on the show once in a while. I'm probably going to tonight. It's been a long day. It's been a very difficult day. So
you knock yourself out.
I need my nicotine a little more.
Nicotine is a wicked drug.
It is. You're right. So I just want to let everybody know I might do it a little more tonight than normal. But
you know what? I think they need to do more studies though on nicotine, on the benefits of just nicotine.
Yeah, there's probably something good to it.
Vaping's a fairly pure way to get it.
Yeah.
It's probably the purest way it's been invented.
Yeah,
year to date. And it does enable a little creativity, and there's benefits to it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I know that if I don't have it, I'm a mess. So whatever that means.
Yeah, well, it's the most highly addictive,
absolutely
natural growing drug out there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Your buddy Long Island's already chiming in here. Doug is a legend. Yes, Doug is a legend. You're right. So Doug, let's get into this.
Sure.
I'm a huge fan. I say this a lot, and I like people to understand that before I ever started this show, before I had my face-to-face encounter in 1994 that completely changed my life with a giant angry Sasquatch, I was a kid who loved the unknown. I gravitated towards the Loch Ness Monster books, the UFO books, we went to the library. That's where I went every time. And I took those books out over and over again. Were you that same kid? Is that the stuff that you loved when you were young? Yeah,
I was. Plus, I had the benefit of both of my parents. The bookshelf was already full of Charles Fort books and Egyptian mysteries and, all this stuff they were all into.
Oh, that's cool.
But they were very quiet about it. They didn't really talk about it unless you asked them questions. Then, they'd be all over it. They were just very open-minded, non-judgmental parents that just liked mysteries. But, when you got, they had a whole bunch of kids too, of course, a lot of brothers and sisters. They get busy with life. And so those things kind of fall away to the wayside. And these books were all the accumulation of all their books when they were younger. And I used to make my dad read the Charles Fort books to me for bedtime stories when I was like 6 years old, 7. And so, and it just completely, it's probably the best thing I think in the world for a kid, to be honest.
I think so. My dad was pretty cool like that too. Well, my stepdad, when he came into my life, he was really good about that stuff. Whether it was kind of making up a bedtime story about some cool adventure or, reading us something really, really cool. Just to foster your imagination,
Yeah.
He was a pretty closed-minded guy, so he wasn't like your parents in that aspect. I don't think he believed in any of these things, but he was good at allowing us to, kind of dive into whatever it is we were interested in.
Yep. So you want to talk about our invention that we invented while we were?
Yeah. I don't know. Should we though? Because if we tell people we haven't copyrighted anything yet, we have no trademarks.
I hope to God somebody invents it. I'm not going to.
Tell them what you're going to invent.
That was hilarious. Well, Kyle was telling me before the show about, he's going to vape, whatever. And I do vape, occasionally, like a fiend at times. Ex-smoker, many years ago. But I said, geez, we need to invent a mic vape attachment so it can be hidden behind your microphone, kind of angled out a little bit so you can vape, You just hit the mute button, vape, no one even knows you're doing it. A little
Right.
smoke comes out of the mic.
Yeah, it's kind of like a special effect, where
Yeah.
once in a while,
Yeah.
make you look mysterious.
So so me and Kyle are copywriting that.
Yeah, so don't steal it, any of you.
Actually, you can if you want. We'll buy one.
Doug's had enough first in his life. Leave some for the rest of us, please.
I'll buy one. I'll buy one if somebody wants to make it. But I can envision it. I see it.
I think it'll work.
Some little Velcro straps.
Listen, there's podcasters out there I watch where they take smoke breaks during their shows.
Sure.
Yeah, so I get it. The nicotine fix is tough. It's very tough.
Yeah.
I try not to, but listen, this is the 8:00 show on a Friday night. If I can't have a little nicotine, what kind of life am I living?
Well, here's the best way to vape.
Yeah.
You just shut your damn camera off.
That's right. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Never thought about that one.
Yeah, just shut your camera off. Nobody's doing anything.
Never thought about that. So I don't even know where to start. So you were the kid who loved all that stuff. Your parents kind of fostered that creativity and that imagination, that spirit in you. Did something happen at any point in your life where you ended up saying, I'm going to make this a career, or I'm going to, so for me, obviously after the encounter, years went by where it was very traumatic and kept me out of the woods, which I spent so much time in as a kid. But then when I finally found the strength and did my own kind of research, watching shows like yours, listening to other people's accounts, I kind of found my way back to the subject and then to the show and to research. So what was your path into that stuff?
It was kind of weird. Okay, so when I was really young, I was just totally into animals. To the point I wanted to run a zoo or own a farm or whatever. I mean, when I was really young, like 4, that's what if one of my sisters or brothers said, what are you going to do when you grow up? I'd say farmer or zookeeper, you know what I mean?
I think we just became best friends.
Yeah.
So that was what I wanted to do.
Yeah, exactly. And so then what happened is one day I was watching TV this was probably, would have been 1962, I would imagine, about then. And the phone rang, and it was a television show that was asking for me to say some magic word that I was supposed to know to win this giant set of Legos, this new toy that had just come out. And I was going to get a tour of this television station. So, of course, my mom calls me into the kitchen. I'm watching the guy live on TV calling me. So then she calls me into the kitchen. He hands me the phone and tells me the word to say, which was Jello at the time. So I say it. I don't know what's going on. I'm just, I'm like 5 years old. Next thing you know, she's explaining I won something. And of course, that's cool. But then we went to this TV station at the top of the Fauché Tower here in Minneapolis. And I got this tour. And back then, everything TV was black and white.
Sure.
So I got to see all these color sets and all these color, it was just, there was set after set of all these TV shows. And I changed immediately what I wanted to do to be involved in the TV business. It's this little kid, right? Because they gave me a tour that lasted like 3 hours.
Wow, that's pretty
cool. It was
cool.
really cool. I mean, the guy he could see my interest. And I was asking all these questions. And so then I'm like, okay, I want to do TV. I like animals. So then when I was probably about 16, I had an idea for an invention. It was so good. I quit school, got the invention done. To this day, it still provides me income, which is great. I did my dream.
And so which invention?
So I became a television producer of animal. I produced animal shows.
Awesome.
So I produced like Wild About Animals. With Marriott Hartley was the host back when I was real young. Did a show called Call of the Wild for PBS. Did North show. Country for Ron Sheriff for many years. So I started doing that, but then I'd start meeting all these scientists doing these other shows, right? People who were doing scientific, field research. And then I'd come up with these goofy ideas and I would pitch them. Hey, let's put a camera here. Let's do this. Let's do that. And they'd say, wow, cool. God, you go. So most of these guys have never heard a creative idea in their life. For them to make their life easier and to do something really cool. So I never got turned down. If I'd say to somebody, hey, what if I build this really cool underwater platform research center, and we put it at the bottom of Lake Superior, and we can run a mile cable, and we can collect data on all of this, the mice, the shrimp, and the underwater current, and we can do fish intelligence. And you pitch that to a fisheries biologist, and they go, yeah, let's do it. So then I'd be like, okay, now I'm committed, because I'd have to prove myself. I'd go to work building all this crap, and then it would be successful. And I'd say, oh, that was cool. I want to do something new. So I just kept doing that.
Wow.
I never stopped doing that. And I had one success after another. And then at one point I was up in the Arctic, Kyle, and I was trying to get footage. I was with a fisheries biologist. We were trying to get the first footage of a trout over 6 feet long in its natural habitat. Yeah.
A big trout.
Right. And I had this theory that these fish that normally are, although in these cold, sterile waters, they can get up to, 48 inches.
Sure.
Wouldn't be terribly uncommon. I mean, fish for a week, you'd probably catch maybe a 4-foot one. But one day I saw this giant one come up and try to eat about a 30-pound trout I was reeling in. And I saw it. At first, I thought it was a man swimming in the water like a mermaid. It was that big. And I was like, and this was on the Knowlton River or Knowlton Lake and the Windy River. It's the exact location right at the mouth if anybody wants to go there. And, it's up right on the 60th parallel. So it's way up there. Right. Literally, you're on the 60th parallel is the Arctic. So you can actually see the barrels on the shore of Knowlton Lake on one side of the lake where you'd cross into the Arctic Circle.
Wow, that's crazy.
It's really cool. But anyhow, so then I went back, asked for a fisheries biologist to go, and I said, let's just work on these. Because I figured they just had gotten out of their niche, became cannibals. I just lots of theories. And so that's what led me up to the Arctic. And then we one day had to take a pee, got out of the boat on shore, and here are these giant Bigfoot footprints coming out of the water, through the pea gravel, up into the moss, and then up to a little set of trees that kind of blocked our view. And these were stunted black spruce trees. But there was a footprint, Kyle, in front of the tree trunk, and then there was one directly behind it in a straight line. So that means it stepped over the tree. And I'm thinking, okay, and I'm doing my calculations. It was about, 16 about inch footprint, a little bigger than 16 inches. They're really wide and deep, and we're just trying to estimate the weight. And I'm thinking, well, this tree is only like 7.5, 9, 10 feet tall. They don't get real big up there. They can be 100 years old and be kind of spindly because it's right at the edge where the trees can't grow anymore. So I knew it stepped over it, the tree. And I'm like, okay, now I've got a whole life shift. Now I want to go after these things because I knew they were real for sure at that point. I'd seen the Patterson footage, of course. I knew that was real. But that seemed so far away and so long ago. You know what I mean? I didn't think about Bigfoot. So I get a hold of Matt Moneymaker. This is like even pre-internet days, almost. I mean, Matt was he was a kid damn near.
Did he still have the long hair back then?
Yeah, no, he didn't actually have short hair. So I got a hold of Matt, and he's like, he informed me, this is back in the 90s. And he was like, oh, these things are everywhere. There's woods, water, and hills. And yeah, that wouldn't surprise me, up there and blah, 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 And then we ended up getting together. I think he flew up to see me, and we started talking about Legend Meets Science. Hey, I want to get all this information. We can do all these new forensic things. Did that, and then went on, did Legend Meets Science for Discovery Channel, which it took forever to sell that project. Trust me, that wasn't like an overnight thing, where you make one call.
Was it tougher back then for this niche subject? Yeah.
Look, even to pitch to my agent, which I did have a TV agent back then, even to pitch to him, these guys live in New York, right in, like right off, Central Park. Bigfoot to them does not exist.
No, they just know giant rats.
And they just kind of laugh. But I'm like, but he was smart enough to hear my arguments.
Mm.
And, and then, get it and then go, okay, well, science. Yeah. Okay. And I explained all the different science things we could do in Legend Meets Science. Anyhow, he ended up selling it to a very smart executive at Discovery. As you know, of course, they make most of their money now in these genres.
Absolutely.
There's no doubt. All their number one shows are Bigfoot and, paranormal related,
Yep.
with Travel Channel's almost full paranormal now.
Yeah,
but back
exactly.
then it was a tougher sell. So I did that. And then I did Mysterious Encounters, which was a little bit of an easier sell because I had more confidence in the whole subject matter. I had a lot of ideas for technology, pitched all this technology to a small network, the Outdoor Life Network.
Mm-hmm.
Ever heard of them?
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
think they were based up in Canada. No, they were based in New York, but I think they had an arm or some ownership up in Canada. But so I did that, and that was the first Bigfoot series on TV. Mysterious Encounters. You can find it on YouTube. Somebody's always pirated, and somebody takes them down, but they're always putting them up.
So this is just amazing. Okay, so you're already up there trying to find this giant trout, which that alone, like, it's a monster.
A cryptid, sure, absolutely.
It's a monster in and of itself. So you're there looking for this giant trout, which you saw try to eat your 30-pound trout that you were reeling in. You thought it was a man.
Yep.
As you're walking away, you see these giant footprints in the snow.
And no, it wasn't snow. It wasn't snow.
Was it?
No, there was no snow on the ground. It's actually, if you can picture the Caribbean, the Arctic in the summer, in these they have a very short summer, but during their summer season, it's warm as heck. It was like sand eskers and dunes and moss, and it looks very tropical. It looks like you're in the Caribbean. So the water is crystal clear up there.
So they were in like a sandy...
whatever it was, they apparently had walked, because it was in a shallow bay, had walked from another island, just walked in the water, come up to this area, which wasn't an island. It was the main shore of a lake called Selwyn Lake, which is, if you want to see it on a map, you go up to Uranium City up in northern Saskatchewan, very northern, almost to Northwest Territories, find Uranium City, and then go kind of northeast. And you'll see a lake. It's a pretty big lake called Selwyn, uninhabited. So no natives even live on this lake. 70 miles across.
Wow.
It's a big area. Caribou. I found the remnants of a few native villages from hundreds of years ago, but that's it. There's nobody up there.
So it's the perfect place for something like that to live. I mean,
because, if these things are eating ungulates, well, I can tell you there's more ungulates up in that area with caribou birthing, literally they'll get 100,000 animals come through. And they're all, half of them are dropping calves.
Yeah.
And they're almost immobile for days at a time.
Right.
If a Bigfoot would be smart, it would hang around these Arctic areas for that season. And then, there'd be a smorgasbord.
Yeah.
Plus, there are rodents up there, and they're dumber than a bag of rocks. These marmots, and there's rodents everywhere. They're everywhere. It would be, and then there's fish, spawning in the shallows. And I don't know. I would imagine there's tons of ptarmigans and other birds that are dumber than a bag of rocks. And I say that because so many have never been hunted.
Yeah.
The wolves up there, I've had wolves walk right up to me because they've never seen a man before. They have no idea what you are. They're curious. Right. And they'll just walk right up to you and sniff your leg.
That's amazing.
And they seem a little skittish, but I think that you could tame them like within a few days, like completely.
I'm sure you could.
A friend of mine actually crawled into a wolf den up there, up on Ellesmere Island, crawled in where there was actual wolf cubs or pups in the den, and crawled right in there, and the mom watched and didn't do a thing.
Wow, man. Okay, so you've already lived just in this story alone. You've already lived my dream life like 10 times over. This is amazing stuff. I want to go back though, because you said when the footsteps, you saw the one in front of the tree and the one behind it.
Yes.
And you said It stepped over this tree. And how tall was that tree?
I should have, be for historical reasons. It would have been great if we'd been smart enough to measure it.
Yeah, just a guess though.
Far taller than any human could ever step over. I don't care how big you are. If you were an 8-foot human, I just don't think we'd have the bulk to be able to just step over that. So we figured this creature, whatever it was about 10 foot tall.
Yeah.
And I remember the guy that I was with looked at me and said, "We need to go now."
Yeah.
He said, we need to go now. And so I actually did a news story right there on the spot with the footprints and did it for a TV station called Care 11, which was a network that I was working for at the time, or a local NBC affiliate. We did this story, but, they just recycled these tapes.
Yeah.
I shot it in a format called High 8.
Mm-hmm.
I do these Arctic trips. I'd always go for the smallest, lightest, camera I could. Excuse me. And I still, people ask, "Well, where are your tapes?" I didn't think it was that significant. You know what I mean? It was just like Bob and Roger. They thought, well, they can just go back to Bluff Creek the next day and get more footage. Yeah, I just thought, well, this is not that. I didn't know anything about the mystery.
Right.
I figured there's footprints everywhere.
Right.
And so we walked beyond those trees. I talked Rick into going beyond those trees. And there you could see in the horizon, these straight line of prints that went off into this kind of rolling tundra. There's more to this story than that, because we went back and I had this idea. I thought it was pretty innovative. I said, let's go talk to Gordy, get up in the float plane. We should be able to follow these tracks to a conclusion.
Right. Because
there's no undercover. There's no overstory to block the view.
Right.
So what I'm thinking, now we know exactly where the tracks are. We'll just get the plane. We'll be here in 10 minutes, and then we'll pick up the track, the tracks right here, and follow them until we see the animal. And I've got a broadcast quality camera with a long lens. And I think I was using a Canon L1, and I had like a 400 millimeter lens.
Oh boy.
On it. And I could have zoomed in so close. I mean, I could zoom in a mile away on that thing. It was crazy long, these long lens.
Sure. Yeah.
And the guy got so mad that he thought we were playing a joke on him, which does happen in these camps, especially up in the Arctic and the subarctic. We're always playing I've played many practical jokes on people. It's just part of this thing that you do when you get a bunch of men together.
Sure.
Somebody's always the victim. He thought he was being victimized. And he apparently had a bad day because one of his planes from another camp had thrown a prop, and they're like $30,000.
Yikes.
And he was in a bad mood. And I remember him throwing the clipboard against the tent wall, and this guy was beet red. And me and Rick just like, okay, we're out of here. But to this day, I regret not going back to him, going, "Gordy, here, look at our footage. Dude, we're not joking you. This is not a joke."
Yeah.
But that's how people view that topic.
Yeah, unfortunately. And I mean, it's still that way. It's obviously much more accepted now than it was, but
back then it wasn't.
Yeah,
this was like in 91.
Yeah, I'm sure that back then you bring it up and people are ready to throw you in a straitjacket and in a institution.
Yeah. There were only two types of people that didn't believe in it or people that saw one.
Right.
Period.
Right.
Now there's a million of in-betweens, that have never had experience, but they're open-minded because they're being bombarded with information.
Right.
Back then, it was you were in one camp or the other.
Yeah. And so tell me what you think what's your theory on that? Why have things changed? Why is it that it's a little more accepted now? We're getting more information, obviously, but and more TV shows. Yep.
Yeah, it's TV shows.
Yep.
And it's the ones that have provided good scientific information or information that's, at least it isn't Mountain Monsters. It's not that show.
Right.
That show is not helping us.
No.
That show is hurting us. But the serious ones, Expedition Bigfoot, Finding Bigfoot, certainly MonsterQuest, Legend Meet Science, those kinds of shows, like Josh Gates has done a good job.
Yeah, I love Josh. Oh,
yeah, there's been numbers of good journalists that have done a decent job that actually care to provide, not laugh at the topic.
Sure.
That's why. Because if you think about it, Finding Bigfoot was on almost 14 years prime time on cable on a popular network.
Yep.
That does a lot of good after 14 years.
Yeah.
You know, because
Absolutely.
you just, even if you don't like the topic, you're going to catch a witness, right? And you're just going to like, okay, I'll just put up with this BS and you listen to that witness. Next time, maybe the guy catches the show, he watches 2 witnesses. Next thing you know, he watches the whole damn show. Next thing you know, hey, maybe there is something to this.
Right. Absolutely.
Evolution, man.
It takes just that one person that has that really rock solid character for people to go, okay, this guy's not lying. This woman is not lying. They can't be. And that's, that gets the wheels spinning for some people. It's so important. And part of this, like the channel, is bringing awareness to people so that they don't have these traumatic encounters that people like myself have had, and so many others, where you don't know. Like I gravitated towards the subject when I was a kid, but I thought, like, as a kid, my imagination was like, oh, that's really cool. Imagine if that was real. But if it was real, I thought it was one thing, just one, and its name was Bigfoot, and it lived in the Northwest.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. I was a kid, And so when we went on that vacation and it gave us all these signs, we had no idea. It was warning us not to go any further. And then it happened, and you're left with this PTSD and this nightmares, and don't want to go.
I don't even know your story. You got to tell it.
Oh, you don't know it. Well,
you don't have to. We'll do the short version.
I'll do the short version. I'll give you the abridged version. So the Berkshires, it was 1994. We were on a camping trip. It was me, my father, my mother, a good family friend of ours named Chris, who was an ex-military recon sniper, like special ops guy, like really badass dude. Wilderness training, weapons training, knew his way around. His wife, his young daughter, and his son, who was about 9. I was 14 at the time. First few nights, there was rocks thrown to the camp. Something came through, opened the jelly jar, took it right out of the cooler, opened the top, left it off, put it back on the cooler. We brushed it off like it was nothing. His little dog was mimicked perfectly. I mean, perfectly. They thought the dog was in the woods. His wife jumped up and was like, oh my God, the dog's in the woods. What's it doing in the woods? It was right next to Chris on the ground. But it was so indistinguishable that the wife was having a panic attack. Okay.
Wow. Something
slapped their camper so hard that Chris thought a car bumped into it. Now we weren't in a campsite. We were kind of off the beaten path. This is how Chris liked it. He was a real wilderness type of dude, and he liked to go in these areas, that were a little bit more rough and kind of make his way. We took a hike. After 3 nights of things happening, we took a hike. We were sandwiched between 2 ridge lines on the right-hand side. They started hearing sticks breaking, but I'd never heard a stick break like this in my life. It sounded like a gunshot. It was like this crack, 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 and it echoed. Chris pulled out his gun because at that point I think he was scared, and he, cursed up a storm, told whoever it was he thought it was a person or people, stop screwing around. If you don't stop, I'm going to use this gun to protect these kids at all costs. And he fired a shot in the air. When he fired the shot in the air is when all hell broke loose on that ridge. Sounded like a team of football players or a tractor trailer truck running through those bushes. You could see the trees swaying as this thing is going through there. You could feel the reverberations in the ground of the footsteps. We continued going forward still. And looking back on it, I thought the only reason why is because there were 2 ridges, one on the right, one on the left. Chris knew where we were going. They end up kind of sloping down, coming to an end, and they turn to the left. And I believe that his thought was, if we can get around the backside of that left ridge, whatever it is on that right ridge, we'll have this buffer between us and it. The problem was that thing took off before we started moving. And when it took off, these things take off. It's like a lightning bolt. They're just so fast. It took off, it must have ran down that ridge, turned that corner, was in the tree line. So now there's a clear separation between the rest of the forest, which is like overgrowth and brush and like hardwood, trees, and then where the pine forest is, which we're staring right at. And the pine is kind of open spaces.
Yeah.
We couldn't see in that tree line. We turned that corner and this thing stepped right out. behind a pine or a cedar. I'm not an arborist. I don't know my trees well. It
Yeah.
was just, I knew it was one of those type of trees, and it connected at the
By
bottom.
by the way, Kyle,
Yes.
that's the quote of the day. I'm not arborist.
All right. Quote of the day.
Anyhow,
I'm not an arborist.
I love it.
So he went nuts. The thing stepped out. It was pissed. He was very angry.
I mean, you saw this.
I saw this thing for probably about a minute to a minute and a half, if I had to guess. I saw an erect penis. He was visibly excited.
That's a rare thing.
This whole thing was it was just crazy. It was so crazy. I
used to own a monkey once.
You did?
And it would actually do that to strangers that would come over.
Yeah.
It would get erect and just, I don't know. I mean, I talked to other people and they'd say, well, it's their way of showing off or their way of dominance.
Yes.
I guess dominance.
Yep.
And there's nothing you can do you just put up with it.
Right.
But there's history of that in the primate world.
Right. And I didn't know that then, obviously, but over the years,
it's not a sexual thing.
No, he was mad. He wanted us to know that he was the king of where we were, and we had not listened to his warnings and gone too far. And you're going to find out why in a minute. He stood between that tree. The tree connected at the bottom and split like this, so I could see from his man parts up his torso, his head, his shoulders. All that was visible. There was a tree to the left. It was like a different tree. It was like oak tree or something, maybe like 10 inches around. He reached out, put his hand on that, and his hand encompassed the whole thing, wrapped right around the whole thing. Wow. His fingers almost touched completely. I remember them being really thick. I could see the fingernails. They were dirty. They were cracked. They were big, and they looked like they were probably that thick. They just looked like.
Do you think this thing could have stepped over an 8-foot tall tree?
I don't know about an 8-foot tall tree because he was about 8 feet tall. I don't think it could have. I mean, it probably could have stepped over a 5-foot tall tree, no problem. It could have jumped. The way this thing was built, I bet you it could have jumped over a 20-foot tall tree.
And when I say stepped over, I'm talking about weed-like, where it's just bending it down. It's just it's ignoring that. I'm not talking about jumping over it or stepping over it. What I mean is it just walked through it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
That's what I mean, so people understand.
Yeah, the thing that I try to explain to people is like over the course of my life, I had that love for animals like you did. So I've done wildlife rehab. I've done, I've been part of a volunteer at many rescues. I've worked with all kinds of animals, and so you start to learn about like how to kind of tell the weight of certain animals after you're around them for so long, when you see the musculature and the bone structure and the density and all that stuff. The muscles on this thing, while he wasn't very bulky, he was more like a basketball player, but they were very defined. They just looked so dense and so mature and hard, and like he could have done anything to anyone or anything in the woods, probably any animal, living thing on this planet, and nobody would have put up a fight. It just wouldn't. Nothing. No elephant, no lion, no tiger, nothing.
When this thing stepped out, were you guys walking towards it or away from it?
Oh, we were walking towards it. We didn't see it.
Yeah, so it just didn't want you to go any further. Probably had family members or who knows.
It did.
Here's my theory, and I think it's pretty, sound, that the ones that are filmed like Patty, like the Freeman footage, even in that one, there's a baby involved, because I'm the one that discovered the baby lift, which will be in Michael Freeman's new book, The Freeman Files. The baby being lifted up. There seems to be a thing where it's like a killdeer. The females are making themselves visible, or there could be a male, in that case. They're leading the people that are walking towards the little one or the family. They're leading them away. They're showing themselves on purpose.
Agreed.
that's not being done by accident. You didn't bust that Bigfoot. He busted your ass.
Absolutely, he did. That's
Yeah.
his domain. We were in his living room.
Yeah, he
Like,
didn't. It wasn't like, oh, Kyle and his friends snuck
yeah.
up on it. No, that's
No.
not what happened.
And he warned us the whole time for 3 nights, wherever, even we were sitting by that roadside, like where we parked, was
Sure.
too close for him. And that's why the rocks came and all that stuff. And
Sure. I mean, there could have been an injured family member that, in that area that was immobile. There could have been, God, there could be a million reasons.
I'm going to finish and you'll know.
Okay.
So he's shaking that tree that's next to him. And when you talk about stepping over, this tree's probably 30 to 40 feet tall. And it's swaying back and forth like it's in the world's strongest Category 5 hurricane. It looks like if he wanted to, if he just went like this, he would have snapped it right in half. He tilts his head back. He sticks his tongue out, and he does this 3 times. Sticks his tongue out, tilts his head back like he's tasting the air.
Ooh.
Curls his lips in, shows his teeth. They're big, giant, blocky teeth. I saw no canines at all. Square, looked like horse teeth to me. A giant mouth that you could fit a cantaloupe in probably with no problem. Big almond-shaped eyes. There was little to no whites. I couldn't really see them from where we were. He had a short forehead that sloped back, and he didn't have a long conical head. It did come to a point, but it didn't go up very high. It was like real kind of sloped in real quick. He threw his hand up in the air and then kind of swung it down, and then he let out this scream that was like nothing. I still can't describe it. I mean, I've heard things that people have recorded that are like it, but I think the audio just doesn't do justice to what you hear in person. Yep. Because you don't just hear it, you feel it. You feel this vibration in your chest and in your whole body, and it sounds like a damn dinosaur. Like that. I mean, it's like a lion roar mixed with a scream. It's just creepy. That's when, from the left-hand side, a female stepped out and walked right over to him. When she stepped out, that was it.
There you go.
Chris had his gun out in his hand. And
so my theory proved out again.
100%. And you're right, though, because over and over, and this, I believe the same thing, over and over, this is what happens, right? And even if people don't see it, these things are just too intelligent to go, woohoo, here I am, look at me. Like, they can remain hidden if they want to, probably forever.
Yeah, you obviously didn't see him by accident.
No, it was on purpose.
Yeah, there was definitely something there that they didn't, both of them did not want. I guarantee it was probably a juvenile. What else would it be?
Well, she definitely had given birth. Okay. I could tell just by her breasts. She
kind
looked
of like postpartum looking, yeah.
Yep, absolutely. She looked like she had given birth.
A little saggy in the lower area.
Recently, probably. Yep. Her hips were wide. She was shaped completely different than him. I mean, she had female features in her face even. Wow. She looked like a female to me. She didn't have as the muscles weren't as defined. Her breasts were kind of saggy and flat. She kind of had a little pooch in her belly.
Yeah. So you guys, that's an incredible sighting. And I'll take a play page right out of Wes Germer's questioning, because I've heard him talk, and I always have to chuckle because it takes courage. So what did the junk look like?
It was weird, man. The only thing I can describe it, because I tried like many times, but if you've ever seen a chimpanzee's penis, it was very similar. Very similar.
Interesting.
It didn't look like ours.
More of a baculum type.
Yeah,
penis bone type thing.
It looked like it retracted, basically, like kind of into a sheath, maybe like a dog's or something like that.
Yeah, that would be it's a baculum type thing.
It was
like bears have a penis bone. Their penis isn't visible until it's mating time, and but I would imagine that there's only been a handful of people that have witnessed the genitalia.
Probably. I mean, it was
Yeah.
crazy because where I was standing, I was in between my dad and our friend Chris. And, you know, at 14, I was still a pretty tall kid, but where he was positioned, it was kind of like a bullseye. It was right there in like where the tree kind of made that split. And so it was like,
So
it
you
just,
weren't alone. So you knew you weren't crazy.
no, God, no. But even still, okay. So my dad is a very, very, very old school, no nonsense, by the book, anal retentive OCD type of guy.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't believe in weird stuff. Chris was a military, like he was highly decorated. Those guys aren't supposed to believe in weird stuff because, you know, if they do, then they can lose their career.
Yeah.
So it's still never really been the most I've gotten out of my dad since that happened. In the beginning, it was, oh, we're not talking about it. No one, we don't know what we saw. That was how it started. Over the course of the years, my dad's gotten a little older and he's gotten a little, you know, grandkids have kind of made him a little softer. He has given me the, yeah, when I talk about it. So it's him acknowledging that what I saw was, you know, the same
And
thing that he saw.
this was in the dark. Did you guys have flashlights?
No, this was during the day.
Oh, this is daytime.
This was probably 3 p.m.
You didn't tell us that.
Maybe
Kyle.
around maybe 2, I don't know, sometime in the afternoon. Yeah,
Wow.
during the day.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
Gotcha. So his constitution was just put into shock mode.
Yeah.
His brain. Yep.
Yep. Everybody. I mean, his poor son, Chris's son, buried his head in his dad's behind and was crying, sobbing, and then urinated on himself.
Yeah.
I had this overwhelming feeling of, well, obviously fear and anxiety, but I started feeling nauseous at one point and disoriented. Chris had his hand on his gun, like he had his gun in his hand, and he's a military guy. He didn't even raise it to use it.
That's crazy.
It's just the whole thing is very baffling, you know.
Yeah, that's an amazing story, Kyle. I love it when I hear the ground shaking because I've felt that numerous times.
It's
When
crazy,
people say
right?
you can feel the ground, oh no, you can feel the ground shaking when they're walking or running. It's
100%.
insane.
It is. The weight these things have is just it's I don't know. Like if I had to guess, and I try to be a little conservative, I would say that the male was probably in the neighborhood of 800 pounds.
Wow. Yeah.
And that's probably conservative. I mean, when you see how dense their muscles look, just how hard and thick, and then how wide the body frame was on this thing, the calves this creature had was like somebody took a cinder block and just stuffed it under his skin. Like they were just they stuck out the sides of his legs, probably 2 or 3 inches on each side.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That was the biggest muscle he had, was his calves too. They were crazy. They were just so big. Yeah.
Very interesting. Yeah, it's there was a time, first time I had felt the ground shake. We were up in Ontario, right on the border of Ontario and Minnesota.
Yep.
We were just up grouse hunting for a week, and we were just shooting grouse with practice arrows to just kind of stun them where we could grab them with our hands and kind of primitive style. And we ate grouse, morning, noon, and night.
Yeah.
All that beautiful white meat, the breast, just amazing. Anyhow,
you make me hungry.
I know. Oh God, cooked over a fire. Just brings out the caveman in you. So anyhow, but we were in the tent and we're on cots, which I would never sleep on a cot, but if people want to bring them, I'll use one. So he brought cots. All of a sudden, the cot I'm in, is just shaking real lightly, just barely. But I start perking up and listening. Here come a pack of wolves running through camp. Right through the middle of camp. You can hear them panting and running. And we had seen timber wolves on this trip. And then right behind the wolves, after the wolves, I hear boom, 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 boom. following the wolves right through the middle of our camp.
Not no deer.
And yeah, of course not. I didn't see anything. Like, I don't know if I know those were wolves for sure, but I don't know what the thing following it. But you can only presume it was a Bigfoot.
Yeah, because what else could do that? What else out there could make the ground shake?
I'll never forget that caught just because when you get up by the Canadian border and beyond into Canada, the ground is very hollow. It's very much a shield here with tons of rocks that are stacked up under the soil.
Sure.
Soil's very thin and there's so many hollow areas. So when you get something big running, I mean, it's like an earthquake.
Yeah, for sure. It's to try to explain it to people, it just doesn't really do it justice. None of it does.
Yeah.
You're trying to explain the sound, the scream, the visceral, just overwhelming feeling of like, I'm not making it out of here. We're going to die today.
Yeah.
Like the physical prowess of these things is just so crazy. I would assume that they probably can do some pretty superhuman things, like superheroes type stuff.
Well, I was in a cabin once up in Ontario where they were lifting the cabin from each corner and shaking it.
You were in it when this happened?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We were in it. Yeah.
Get the hell out of here.
And the cabin was clearly getting lifted. Not a lot, but it's like a small cabin up on blocks, right?
It doesn't matter if it's a little or a lot. It's a cabin.
No, it still probably weighs plenty. And I'm like, this does not even it doesn't even make sense. I remember looking down at the floorboards and seeing them flexing.
Oh, my God.
And that's when I really panicked. I mean, it was like, it's nuts. But once again, I was hearing running up on the roof at the same time, the screaming and the growling and the screaming. It sounded like a bunch of chimps that were really mad.
Yep.
And I could only infer after thinking about it that there was a juvenile up on the roof.
Probably.
And they were pissed. They weren't pissed at me. They were pissed at this, whatever their kid that's up on the roof, and they're trying to get
delinquent kid was doing. Yeah.
I don't know what else to think about it. That's what I envision in my mind.
That's probably, you're probably accurate, because I think that a lot of times, people, there's people in this community, I'm sure who have ongoing activity at their houses for sometimes years.
I know numerous people that do. Yeah.
Right. And so they end up having almost relationships with these things.
Although I'll interrupt, I've got more of them that don't want them on their property than do.
Right.
They don't tell anybody. I can't use their name. They'll just try to get advice from me how to get rid of them. That's all they want to do is they want them away from their happy place.
100%.
Their cabin that's a getaway. They don't want to be bothered.
And I understand why.
Yeah.
I mean, there's to most people, these things are monsters, a real life monster.
Yeah.
A giant, when you're talking about 10 feet tall, 1,000 pounds, like that's a monster. It's a giant monster.
Yeah.
And I don't think some people understand the gravity of like just what that is. And I try to tell them, like, if you've ever played a game of basketball, a basketball rim is 10 feet high. Stand underneath one and look up.
Yeah. Yep.
And then try to imagine 1,000 pounds of muscle that stands that tall.
Yeah.
It would be absolutely terrifying.
Yeah. It is nuts. Well, you think what a chimp can do to a person?
Oh, forget it.
A male chimp. I mean, he can just rip you apart, just tear you open. What was that one woman just tore her face right off?
She lived in Connecticut. It's where I live. She was killed the friend, and she was mangled.
Oh, just tore her face off. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, she went on Oprah. Like, it was so sad.
Yeah.
And he was that thing. She had been feeding him tranquilizers to keep him calm because he was sexually immature.
Yeah.
And he was aggressive.
Yeah.
It's just, they say that a gorilla's strength. I read it somewhere. Maybe I'm wrong, but you'll probably tell me that it's incalculable because we just can't. There's no way to really measure it.
Yeah, I've heard estimates as low as like a chimp is 4 times human strength.
Yeah.
And then on the high end, 10 times. I've also had a few scientists say there's no way. It's like 15 times.
I would imagine that's probably more accurate.
So a Bigfoot would be in the 40 time range.
Yeah, think about that.
of a
Think
human.
and now, are we talking about an average human, or are we talking about like a strong human?
I'm talking probably an average
Okay. Well,
average
even
person.
still, that's insane.
40 times strength. And yeah, I was in a cabin another time where this thing was coming up on the, once again, we didn't see it. I don't know what it was. And I blame my daughter for that because it was her first expedition. It was a family expedition.
Yeah.
And we were off the beaten path, and we rented a cabin that was off the grid, like 11 miles on a logging road to get there. Solar powered, nobody around. And the first, we did a few wood knocks all the first night. We heard a scream that prompted my daughter to say, Dad, you are going to take these blankets and you're going to take duct tape and you're going to tape them on the windows, or I'm not going to sleep in here tonight. Because she was that scared after hearing that scream. And so, of course, I did. And so I taped up, she helped me. We taped up because there's no neighbors, so they don't need curtains. But
Yeah.
the thought of that thing looking in the window in the middle of the night freaked her out. So I taped it up. At about 2, 3 in the morning, I hear walking up the porch. She's in the bedroom with me because she had decided she's going to sleep in my room. And so we hear it walking up the stairs, and then it opens and closes the recycle bin over and over and over. Then it walked over and did the glass one. One is for aluminum, one is for glass. Opened and closed it. Very kind of OCD behavior. Then it walked down the porch again. Then it played with the Velcro on our truck. It kept like ripping the Velcro and then reconnecting it and ripping it and reconnecting it. Then it came back up, did both recycle bins again, like 10 times each, went back down, did the Velcro, came back up each recycle bin. And I'm thinking, when it comes on the porch, I'm like a foot away from it. All I got to do is tear the duct tape off and I can see it. And I'm thinking, do I want to?
Yeah, right.
Because
Right.
it's still, even for me, it's still an impact. It's life-changing to be face-to-face with something like that.
It absolutely is.
And I've got my daughter, and I'm thinking, do I want to get this thing PO'd? And I've got my daughter here. I can see my 30-30 on the ground. It's not loaded. I'm afraid to get up and make noise because I'm enjoying this activity.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, right before the sun came up, it crashed into the side of the cabin so hard, it literally sounded like a semi-truck hit it, or like a big Dodge Ram pickup truck rammed into the side of it.
Mm-hmm.
And to the point where the bed, now this didn't even make sense to either of us, it pushed the bed away from the wall a few inches. And we both sat up at that. We were awake, but we both sat up instantly, and I never heard my daughter swear. She goes, "What the F?"
Yeah,
We
yeah.
were both looking at each other saying the same thing. Like, it was insane. And so every night it came back. And then we had audio recorders out, or one audio recorder out. And it came back every night and it did a different wall. It threw something or bashed into the wall. And then it was done. It was like a grand finale every night on a different wall of the cabin.
That's so weird.
Yeah, it's weird behavior.
Have you ever read or heard about Christopher Noel's
Oh, yeah,
book?
of course. In fact, when I heard his theory, I had long already had that experience.
Yeah.
And I went, because I was thinking that's really kind of weird behavior to just do it over and over and over. There was also a bin in the back of the cabin that was to like store life jackets and stuff.
Yeah.
It did the same. It opened and closed it, opened and closed it, opened and closed it. And you could just hear the lid. Then it would shut. Then it would open. Then it would shut. Then it would open.
Yep.
It's like, okay.
Kind of fits though, right?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. And I've talked to Chris. I know him. And I thought his theory was one of the best theories that had been put out in many, many years.
Yeah, it was very refreshing.
We could all use that against these things from a standpoint of their curiosity. And I have since. And that is by just putting shiny pieces of plastic with Velcro on one edge out in the woods where I know they are.
Mm-hmm.
And then just checking on it every once in a while, because if they see that thing, they're gonna handle it. Yeah. They're gonna leave you hairs and fingerprints on that.
Yep.
On that clear, shiny acrylic.
Yeah.
Not clear. You can use colored, clear, whatever, as long as it's that really high gloss finish.
Yep.
They
Yeah.
seem to not be able to resist handling it.
So crazy.
They can't stop themselves.
I didn't know you had all these experiences. I
Oh
mean,
God, yeah, many of them. Well, this goes over 35 years.
but even still, some of these are these are amazing.
Yeah.
People try their whole lives in this community to have experiences like that
Yeah.
and never succeed.
Well, I think one thing that happens when people go into an area, they overdo the activity.
Agreed.
I tend to. I've learned through the years, if you bring kids with you,
Hmm.
you're more likely to have some activity. And I've had most of our activity when we've had kids on our expedition.
Okay.
So that's one
Bring 'em
tip. But
bait.
people, well, yeah, I guess
I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
It's a bad way to put it, but yeah, it's kind of what it is. But I think it's good for them too to experience this kind of stuff.
Sure.
On a level. I mean, it changed my life, my son's life.
Yeah.
Experiencing this kind of stuff. It's changed my daughter's life.
Yeah.
It gets them interested in the world in a whole new way.
Absolutely.
So I forgot what I was going to say. See, I'm getting old, Kyle.
Listen, I forget what I'm going to say.
Oh, we were talking about experiences. So
Yeah.
kids, but generally what we do is we'll do just one or two wood knocks right away when we get there.
Yep.
Then that's it. Don't do any more.
Yep.
Unless maybe you wait 3 or 4 days, then maybe do one or two. But it tends, if there's any within earshot, it tends to bring them, into your area. But do your research. Look at where are the stream sources. Do you have 4 or 5 connecting streams that all converge into one area? Oh, are there, do a research on the plants in the area. Go up there at a time. Are there blueberries? Ask people that live in that area. Or it's just be very familiar with it. So I'll go to an area where I know there's huge blueberry patches. There's tons of reprod or, it's a new growth forests.
Mm-hmm.
There's plenty of wilderness, but yet there's travel routes to that place. In this place, there's a logging trail that goes to it. Perfect travel route, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they feel that they can to do that without burning up a ton of calories.
Sure.
And there's places like that. Lake shores are great travel routes.
Yeah.
So if you can find a lake shore, it's next to a valley. Oh, here's a power line cut. Oh, here's a creek that runs into the. Do your operations at areas, not necessarily based on activity, but based on geographic conditions. Kind of like all roads lead to this area.
Yep.
Those are the areas that we tend to pick.
Yeah, I recently just was kind of working with Mark Zaski, trying to get his help on narrowing down some areas here because Connecticut's not a very squatchy state per se, especially down where I'm at on the shoreline. And so I was trying to get get some ideas from him on what he thought were good areas. And I gave him a 100 square mile map. And he picked 2 areas, and the areas he picked I had never been to before.
Yeah.
But I went to the first one, which is a state forest, and it has ridges, it has some elevation changes, nothing major, but it has a river that runs right through it, and there's a pretty big pond area.
Sounds like a good spot.
There's tons of cover. There are tons of plants and that they could probably pick on, but we have tons of deer here.
Yep.
I went and there were signs.
If you have tons of deer, I know it's already replanted, forest.
Yeah.
Because they generally they don't hang out in old growth forests.
Right. Yeah. We don't even have a ton of old growth forests in this state anymore.
Yeah.
They've all been kind of torn down.
Logged, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
But there were signs everywhere the first day, and then 4 days later on the Bigfoot mapping project, they had a sighting right in that park.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so it was pretty. I was excited because
isn't Scott? Oh man, he's a joy. That guy,
Scott,
the Bigfoot mapping project.
Oh yeah,
Scott Thompson. Yeah. He's just a joy.
Awesome.
And I just think about it's people like that are going to just raise the bar so much higher. That are actually doing hard work. Boring, complex work.
Yes.
Mapping out these sightings and looking for commonalities and, No, that's the stuff we need far more of. I wish
Doug,
we would have had it 30 years ago.
I'm gonna give you the name of somebody, and I don't know if you know who he is, but I had him on the show a few days ago. He's a younger guy. He's probably in his 30s, maybe late 30s. His name is Trey Howell. He has a pretty successful Instagram page, TikTok, that's all curated Bigfoot evidence throughout the years. But this guy, some of the most refreshing, out of the box theories and ideas. He has a background in film and cameras and video, and I was blown away. I mean, the things that he talked about, the ideas that he has, that he's filming a docu-series right now called Masters of the Hunt, and some of the stuff that they're trying is just so cool. Because it's tough. Once you can only do things so many times, right? They just kind of get done over and over again. And
Right. But, literally, if you look at the history, there's things that you hear over and over, like them coming into your camp.
yes,
How many times have you heard that, Kyle? I bet you've heard it 100 times.
so many.
Okay. So you take that scenario and you lower your expectations, you search out a really good area to camp. Make sure you've got, have your bait, some kids. I'm joking. But at least go into an area that's got all the elements.
Yeah.
Buy a motorcycle dash cam system. Here's why. They've got two small, tiny cameras. They're waterproof. They've got a color monitor. They'll run off a USB power supply. Like you can buy on Amazon for $10. We'll run them. Right? Put a little slit at the bottom near, not right at the floor, but near the floor. Use a cheap tent. Get a Walmart tent. Cut some holes. Put some duct tape around it. Fish these cameras out. They come with long extension wires. Bury the wire. Put the camera in a bag of Doritos. Do something creative. You know what I mean? To hide.
Yeah.
Get a little black tarp that you can bring in your tent to throw over yourself so you can look at the monitor if you hear anything. And they record. They're constantly recording. So they're recording audio and video off those cameras. Both cameras at the same time. Right and left.
Idea.
$130. You're all set. Plus, daytime, you want to go hiking, pull the cameras through your thing because you want to do a new setup every night, Pull the cameras in, put them on your body, one aiming backwards, one forward, and go on a hike. Then if you would have had one of those systems on you that night or that day,
right? Yeah,
you'd have been a hero.
Yeah, right. Yeah. What if?
Well, the other thing with these cameras, they're colored during the day. They turn to IR at night.
This is a motorcycle camera system.
Motorcycle dash cam. Blue Sea Sky makes a really good one. Blue Sea Sky. I don't work for them. It was funny because that manufacturer actually. I did a post on my Facebook page, and they put it on their website because they just thought it was really cool,
Blue Sea Sky.
Yeah, a motorcycle. It's called a motorcycle dash cam.
I gotta look.
They're high def cameras. I install those things on bikes now, on e-bikes.
Oh yeah, okay, here they are.
So, and I hook them right into the power. You turn your e-bike on, you got a camera front and rear recording. Color during the day, IR at night, and they're silent. I just got last weekend. That's what we did. We went to Black River, Wisconsin, and rode all these remote trails at night at about 9 miles an hour, dead silent, with cameras going.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I'm jealous. I'm so jealous. You're like everything that you're describing are things that I'm wishing would happen to me now. Now that I'm kind of past that primal fear.
Well, the other thing about a dash cam, this thing, when you're going to leave now, put it on your dash.
Right,
Set a little Velcro mount, put it there, plug it into your cigarette lighter. Sure. And now you've got a dash cam. This is so multi-use.
Right,
It's a body cam. It's a tent cam at night.
Right.
And all you need is the camera system and a tarp to throw over so they can't see the light of the monitor.
Right, yeah. Well, that's a good idea. The whole like I've thought about this for a long time. Where you talked about people do too much. I think that because they're very curious, that almost sitting back sometimes and just allowing them to come to you is a better idea than intruding into their areas.
Unless you can do the element of surprise, or you can get into a situation like you did where they're in a production mode.
Right. But
Perfect
I would
storm.
never want to do that again.
But just walking through the forest and running into a Bigfoot, chances are it's pretty slim,
Very.
unless you get into a birthing area or, I mean, it's a needle in a haystack. I'm not saying it never happens, but generally what we do is e-bikes, because that's the element of surprise. They're going to hear a noise, but they're not going to know what it is because e-bikes haven't existed very long.
Right.
They've probably never seen one.
Right.
And all of a sudden, bam, you're just going to be there.
Yep.
I mean, who's riding a bike on a logging road in the middle of nowhere? Nobody is.
Yeah.
At night at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
No,
nobody's doing that.
So that's why I like doing new things. It's because certainly we've all heard stories of them being busted by ATVs, even.
Mm-hmm.
Motorcycles, dirt bikes, bikes, even.
Yeah.
But I think e-bikes are a good way to surprise one. But other than that, stay in your damn camp.
Yeah.
I mean, you can explore during the day, obviously, look for a sign, but generally you don't want to, you just want to, get their curiosity.
Yeah. I've almost heard it probably from just about every researcher that I've ever talked to who's gone camping in their areas, that they've had activity in their camp.
Right.
But somehow, I don't know, we're not doing what we need to do at the campsite to get the evidence that we're looking for. What I want to ask you something. What's your? I'm probably kind of know what your answer is. I don't want to assume, but what's your theory on them having maybe some kind of paranormal abilities or extra sensory abilities, the ability to mess with energy fields,
like electronics and stuff.
Sure. Yeah. Yep.
Well, this is really cool because my son is pretty convinced that's what's going on. Yeah. So he's doing research on a regular basis, but he's bringing scientific equipment with him, EMP meters and the like.
Yep.
His last trip, he had a real interesting thing, which I believe him. I wasn't there. And, I told him, I said, dude, you have to get more EMP meters. You can't come to me with this story with one EMP meter because it could malfunction. So They do a wood knock, and they were in a very remote area. They get there by canoe. They do a wood knock, and the EMP meter stayed pegged until morning. And I have that same EMP meter, and he said it worked, and then the next morning it just, as soon as the sun came up, it dropped down to zero again. They take a lot. I mean, I have to get right up to my outlet, and it's barely even moves a little bit. He said it was pegged. So I'm like, well, Blaine, you got to do this and this, and you can't. So he will. He's bought more now. So if all three would have pegged, and you could have then documented the meters all pegging, and then showed me and panned around where you are in the middle of frickin' nowhere. There's no cell phone signals, nothing. And they did test it on the way up, going through small towns on the drive. The needle barely ever moved, So I hear stories like that. I'm open-minded, but that's it. I'm just open-minded. I do know they still have hair.
Sure.
I know they still poop, and I know they leave fingerprints, and I know you can film them. So I'm just going off that.
Sure.
So I don't want to judge anything. I don't want to be that guy that goes, gee, I was wrong, or gee, I was so right. I don't want to be either of those. I just want to be humble and go, I don't know.
I think that's kind of the attitude you should have in this field, is because we don't have anything tangible to study, samples from, or to biopsy or any of that stuff. So we don't have any real factual data
Right. And the other thing too, Kyle, there are very few paranormal encounters that sound paranormal that I couldn't come up with some kind of explanation for.
Mhm.
Where you can just throw it at them like Blaine, my son, your EMP meter dysfunction. Yeah,
Right.
I probably sound like a jackass saying that, but it's what any scientist is going to say.
Right.
When you tell them that story, they're just going to throw that. Oh, the footprints ended in the middle of the forest. Well, maybe it jumped to a tree.
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe it, there's all sorts of things like that. On the
Yeah.
same token, I know that that one time when the cabin got hit, it sounded like a semi truck hitting it. I mean, it moved so much, and the cabin was pretty solid we were in. That almost seemed paranormal to me.
Yeah.
Like that was super strength. That was like something out of a bad movie.
Yeah. Well, yeah. That's kind of what I felt like when what happened to us happened to us. It was just like a horror movie
Yeah.
right in front of your face. But yeah, that's crazy. I mean, to have a whole cabin shift and then the bed move away from the wall.
Yeah, it did. The bed was up against the wall and it bumped away from the wall. The bed was on, in defense of the bed, yes, it was on rollers. But the bed was solid all night against that wall, and all of a sudden the whole cabin gets boom, and the thing is, so next thing you know, I'm looking, oh my God, we're almost a foot away from the wall.
Yeah, that's a hell of a lot of force.
Yeah.
A hell of a lot.
And to hear my daughter, who never swears, say, what the F? And look me right in the eyes, and it was like we sat up and locked eyes at each other instantly.
So you've never seen one though?
Yes, sure.
Oh,
I
you
can
have?
tell you about, yeah, of course.
Let's hear that.
And once again, there was nothing that I did good that caused those sightings.
Yep.
They were all dumb luck, every one of them. Everyone was literally being in a car.
Really?
Yep. Everyone was we were driving. Okay, there's a whole chain of lakes near me that are uninhabited because they're eutrophicated. They're old lakes. They're not the new glacier lakes that are beautiful and deep and clear. These are swamps.
Yeah.
The lakes are shallow. They're very old. They're filled in. For some reason, hundreds of years ago, somebody ended up buying all those lakes. Right? So they have riparian rights. They own even underneath the lake.
Okay.
Well, that's one area that there's numerous sightings. I can be there in, 15 minutes.
Okay.
And I'll just drive those lakes, slowly, whatever. I'm just hoping for a glimpse or whatever. People have had even daytime. A guy that works for me had a daytime sighting in there 2 p.m. And he thought he saw upright deer. It's a guy, no interest in Bigfoot. He just thinks he saw an upright deer. In fact, he called me. He's like, because I know about wildlife. He's like, did deer walk upright? And I said, what are you talking about? He goes, well, this really big deer just like walked in front of my truck and then it stepped over a barbed wire fence. They do that, don't they? And I'm like, no.
I don't mean to laugh, but
no, it's funny.
Come on.
And I said, I asked her, did it have broad shoulders? Yeah. Oh yeah, really big. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, deer don't have shoulders. And he showed me the color. And he said, it's this kind of auburn. He showed me there was a pair of shoes that I had in a shoe rack. They had kind of this auburn colored liner. He goes, that thing was the exact color of that shoe liner there. It was an auburn red. Literally 2 weeks ago, another couple saw it and filmed it. The same one he saw. It's exactly due east, about 20 miles from where he saw it. Due east like 3 days later. And I ran ads because they dropped the footage off at a TV station. Then they didn't want anything to do. They didn't want their names associated, nothing. And I ran ads in the local paper with a reward, $1,000 reward for them to come forward because I know their sighting's real because of the guy that works for me sighting that happened days before described the same color that's in the footage. And if anybody wants to see it, go to, I think they call it like St. Croix Bigfoot or I think there's been posted under Stillwater. And it's a Bigfoot. All you see is a ducking under some trees and moving really quick. But at one point you can see the pretty long hair off the bottom of the arms. You can see it's clearly auburn red. And it's moving way too quick for a human.
Yeah, they
It's
move
not a
in
guy in a suit. I
a
know it
very
is.
strange manner too.
Yeah. Yeah, ducks and just cruises smooth through the trees.
Yep.
And the couple filmed it with their cell phone, and that was on their farm. And but they would not come forward, even with $1,000 reward, because they live in a small town.
Yeah, right.
But I thought it would be such a cool thing to collaborate these two stories.
Sure. Of course
Yeah.
it would.
So yeah.
So okay, where is this?
Oh, so I never told you my sighting.
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
So we were driving along one of these lakes. We had gone to an area called White Bear Lake, and we had gone there just to buy something. Driving back, and we noticed there was a water ski show on this one lake that abuts to the Rice Creek chain of these eutrophicated smaller lakes. It's a lot of state park around there, very heavily wooded. Many of these lakes are no trespassing because the owners don't want anybody on these properties. They have a rule, they won't even use them. They won't allow their own members, like a hunting club owns one of the lakes. They won't even allow their own members on that lake. I don't know why. One of the names of the roads is Furman Road. In fact, the road my employee had on that in that area was on a road called Furman Road.
Wow.
And these people have owned these lakes for 150 years, I guess.
Sure.
But all right. So we were driving, but they had a water ski show with a bunch of children that were on shore in an area that never kids, never people. So we drive past this water ski show, which is all over now, and everybody's walking back to this town that's east of this lake. They're all just walking on their lawn chairs, and there's just 50 people all walking back. And here we're driving. There's a pinch point where there's like a land bridge between these two lakes. State park on the left, swamp on the right, and a whole bunch of lakes that just go on for 40 miles. Forest, there's nobody in any of these areas. We see this thing walking along the road in a bunch of alders, just maybe 6-7 feet from the road, but it's walking in the ditch through the alders, like just plowing them over. And me and Yvette are seeing this thing, and of course, we don't expect to see a Bigfoot, right?
Sure.
And here's this huge, it was the weirdest looking hair I've ever seen, because it had like dots of silver and black, all mixed, not like silver turning into black. It was like salt and pepper. It was very black with just specks of silver all over it.
Wow.
And it was walking with broad shoulders and just plowing through these alders in this wet ditch. And we could clearly see the upper part of the body, the shoulders, the arms, the hands. We could see all that because it was just plowing through there. And we're both like, we're looking at each other like, you know what I mean? Each trying to describe it, and then I was like, well, we're already past it. And you realize there's 2 cars behind you. There's no ditch or no shoulder on this road to even pull over.
Oh.
And you just go, well, I just enjoyed that,
Yeah.
And you wish you would add a dash cam.
Sure.
You wish you would add one of those motorcycle dash cams going, see?
Sure.
And so did I. And I do have a dash cam on. And of course, I haven't seen anything since.
Of course not.
But to see, that was witnessed clearly by both of us. We both described exactly the same thing with the same size and the fur and the bulk of this massive creature. But it had to go. I think it was spying on those kids.
Probably.
Laughing, all these little kids that were laughing on the shore of this lake that never has anybody there.
Sure.
And I think it was just spying because there's a forest right across the street. And I think it was going back into that wilderness area. And it had to walk on that. It was either that or go another 30 miles along the other direction.
Right.
So we took the shortcut, and it was just, it was going to be through there. It's 300 feet, and it's done. Didn't give a damn.
Right. Wow, that's crazy, man.
Nobody else stopped. I don't think anybody even noticed it.
And that's the other thing. I think that people are so, heads in their phones most of the time, focused on other things that, they don't.
Oh, when we drive, I'm going to tell you, Kyle, we are like heads on a swivel.
That's me.
Yeah.
Anytime there's any kind of woods next to me, if I'm
Yeah.
driving, I'm like
Exactly.
scanning everything.
Every tree line, I'm just like trying to get as much
Absolutely.
information. Sometimes I worry I'm not, you worry you're not driving as good as you should be because
Yeah.
you're still, but then I think I'm hyper aware. I think I'm less likely hopefully to get in an accident because I'm so hyper aware.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly, because you're trying to focus on everything around
Everything.
you
Yep.
instead of, kind of just in a trance as you're going along.
Yep.
That's amazing, man. I never heard of anyone like describing that color before.
It was weird. I've never seen another animal like that. I've never seen a black bear. I've never seen any animal like that. It was just absolutely gorgeous.
That's amazing.
I mean, it was so speckled with these gray hairs, but yet jet black, blacker than black, just speckled with these white. I mean, it could have been white,
Yeah,
but just dots of these things, just kind of even all over it.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So I don't know.
Well, we're at an hour 20. I know we said 8:30. I wanted to get to some other stuff, but maybe we can have you back on another
Well, or
time.
let's just take a 10-minute break, or not. I didn't mean 10-minute, 10-second break, and then come back and go at it. I
Yeah,
can go at it till probably 9
you want to do
if
that?
you want. Sure, sure.
We can take a break. All right,
Yeah,
sure.
just
We'll,
yeah.
we'll
1
take
minute
a break.
break. I think everybody can
We'll take
hang
a
on.
break. We'll
I've
let
been
Doug
drinking a ton of water, so you can only imagine when I need to take a break.
go for it, man. Go for it.
Okay.
I'm going to bring in a guest when you come back.
Sure. Great.
Okay. All right. I'm going to stick around. The puppy's asleep, so I don't need to go anywhere. He was tossing and turning. I was getting a little nervous that maybe he was going to have to go make a poop or a peep. But he's passed out. I would show you, but I'd have to tilt this whole computer. He looks very cute right now, though. Amazing. Am I right? Is this guy amazing? This is like a hero for me. If you understand the child in me that grew up, loving this subject, and then to be able to talk to the man that created so many amazing shows, documentary series, films, and listening to him speak about all of these amazing, amazing adventures and encounters he's been on. This is just like, this is, I know that I probably say this often, but it's all true. This is so much fun for me. I hope that comes across to you guys. Like, I'm just having the time of my life. Mike, where'd you go? I was going to bring you in a second. All right, don't go nowhere. Can you hear me, Mike? Can you hear me? I see you. I'm going to bring you in 1 minute. I want him to come on, and then I'm going to surprise him with you. All right. So I'm going to look in the chat right now. I'm sorry. I'm so bad at focusing on the chat when I have guests on. Tony, are you in Massachusetts? I used to live in Taunton and Middleborough. I'm not. I'm in Connecticut, but I do research in Massachusetts in the Bridgewater Triangle. I'm very familiar with Taunton. Actually, I back when I was younger and in shape, and before I broke my back, I fought in Taunton a few times. I never shared any of that about that stuff that I did back then with you guys. But yeah, I used to compete in mixed martial arts and boxing and stuff. So yeah, Taunton, I fought up there a few times. I got relatives all in Massachusetts. Most of them live in Southie, though. You can see the little shamrock there. Where's the other one? That side, right there. That side. Irish family in Southie. That story about the thing hitting the cabin, like, woof, good golly, Miss Molly. Talk about crap in your pants. That would have done it for me. Oh, look it, we're back. He's back. I can't hear you, Doug. I think you're muted, buddy.
There we go. I said I'm back, and I feel much better.
I'm glad you do. I'm glad you do.
Anyhow, so I would be amiss not to thank Mike, for introducing us.
Well, I got a surprise for you.
Oh,
Although now he's all right. You ready? Here we go.
yeah. There he is.
There he is.
Mr. Mike C.
Long Island Bigfoot, Mike. Yes, he's a wonderful guy, Doug. He for whatever reason, I don't know why, but this is all new to me. And when I only started this like 2.5 weeks ago, Mike reached out immediately. He just extended his hand and made it a point to try to help somebody who was new to this community, and he's been a godsend. I tell everybody all the time, he is responsible for 50% of the guests on this show.
Really?
He is absolutely.
Well, then you need to give him the title of producer.
I told him, I said, if this show makes it, if we make it somewhere, I'm gonna have to hire you as like my booking agent. Yeah. I don't know, something.
It's how I actually got started in radio, doing radio. I used to produce local radio. They were actually broadcast shows, but they were just local, and I would help them produce. I had a blast doing it.
Yeah.
We all need a little help sometimes. You know what I mean? Yeah, especially in the beginning. So
yes, exactly.
Well, he's been so incredibly invaluable. I wouldn't have Doug Hajicek on my show if it wasn't for Mike. I wouldn't have Mike Patterson on my show if it wasn't for Mike. Some amazing guests, like people that I sincerely look up to, and so it's a big deal for me. I try to tell him as much as possible just how much I appreciate him, because
a lot of us in this field, we struggle with doubt every single day. You could see something and just doubt it because that's what you're made to do, and we struggle enough. So why not help each other, through that doubt, especially if you made it through a part and you see somebody struggling with the same thing you struggled with. Like, why not just reach out a hand and then help them through it? Like, it's silly to me. And if anything, if it's not anything else, but it's contagious, or each one helps one, then great. Then it's all for, it's not all for naught, or whatever the wording is. You know what I mean?
No, I totally get it. We talk about this a lot. There's enough division amongst people in these niche communities where, Bigfoot hunters don't talk to the paranormal field, and the paranormal field doesn't talk to the alien guys, and they kind of bicker back and forth. And really, I think that somehow, some way, all of it ties together at some point. It's all.
I just think it's fine. You don't have to believe it, but don't be mean about it.
Right. And there's a lot of that.
I do see people that just they're a little quick on their words and
sure,
a little harsh. It's like, if you don't want to watch a show, don't watch it.
Right.
Or if you don't agree with it, don't look at it. Don't read it. But you don't need to leave a comment.
But we live in that cancel culture, Doug, where if you don't agree, now it's like you got to go. We don't agree with you. See you later.
Yeah, I never do that. I want to get along with everybody, and I'm open-minded, and I don't have one of these things where I can study it. I have no idea.
Sure.
One of the cool things is someday we may all find out that they have super abilities, like an electric eel or something weird like that, and it doesn't mean it has to be paranormal necessarily, and the things people have seen doesn't mean they're wrong.
Right.
They may be the ones that are right. I just keep an open mind. I've seen some weird crap too, man. And, people probably think I'm nuts. And I'm like, well, hey, at least I had a witness.
Yeah. When you have a witness, it's a beautiful thing.
Yes, it is a beautiful thing. At least for your own sanity. Yeah. And if you ever really get into a thing where, you do want to make a point and people doubt it, and you can say, here, come here and you can join me and tell the story. I wish Yvette wasn't so shy, because we've seen, we had some kind of creature, huge thing, swoop in our car, just dropped out of the air, swooped at the car, and it looked like a man with wings.
Yeah.
Like a Mothman?
Like a Mothman, yeah. I don't know what it was, but I do know I got a good look at it because it came right within, inches of the windshield.
Interesting enough, like my wife and I were driving the other day, and we watched, up in the sky, there's these 4 or 5 big things, huge, going like in a thermal, like big birds do, but they're massive. And as we're getting closer and closer to this, it's called a creek, but it's not a creek. It's huge. It's a huge river, but they call it a creek up in the Catskills. And one just kind of goes down and it comes back. And when it came in front of the windshield, it looked like I don't know. It was like bald, like a dinosaur, and it was massive though. Like I have a giant, one of those big SUVs. It's a QX56.
Yeah.
Like the windshield's huge,
Yeah.
and this thing's wings were way past that. There was nothing that made sense. We couldn't make sense of it.
It's almost like a pterodactyl type.
Yeah,
creature.
she just kept saying yes, yeah, basically, but not as big as a pterodactyl, but just looked just like one. And she just kept asking me if I saw that and if I saw that, and I was just like, yeah, and like my adrenaline's going, and I'm driving the car, you know what I mean? So like I'm on these back roads, and like I'm hitting ditches, and like I'm going in the other lane because my mind is still back where where we just were. And it was almost like you could hear the wings on it, like that, and I don't know how to explain this still to this day. That was about a week ago, and we were like, oh, we should do like a live stream and talk about it. But in essence, it just all got shut down. We didn't talk about it again.
Well, what if everything is an illusion? What if everything's like Elon Musk says? It's all a big, it's a big video game.
Yeah, well,
and these are just glitches in the video game. Who knows?
Who knows? I talk about it because my family comes from Ireland, and so there's a whole lot of
What
lore.
was my first clue?
Oh, probably the hat, right?
Yeah, right.
Or the tattoo on the side of my neck of a shamrock. So my family comes from Ireland, and there's a ton of lore connected to obviously that country. My grandparents and great grandparents swore, and we're talking about very strict Irish Catholic people.
Yeah.
They swore that little people and fairies were real.
Yeah.
That they existed, and to stay away from them, don't bother them. They'll play tricks on you. They're little like jokesters, and they'll steal things. And they swore to God that they were real.
Yeah, I mean, and why would they just make it up?
Right, exactly. There's no reason to.
Yeah.
Right.
No reason to.
Yeah, I think there's truth in so many of the stories, in so many of the folklore. All I know is I've seen some weird crap, and I'm not going to throw judgment on any shade on anybody else because
is the Mothman thing the weirdest thing you've seen?
Yeah, I'd probably say it's the weirdest thing because it just, once again, we're just driving home from up north.
Yeah. And
it's a beautiful night. There's music playing on the radio. And I even remember the song. It was Vincent from Don McLean it was his song. So we're just in a good mood. We're driving back, and all of a sudden we see this thing drop straight down from the moon, like from the moon area, where the moon was up in the sky, drop straight down and just did a 90 right at the car. It defied physics.
Yeah.
And then hit it right for the windshield, got within very close. She ducked, and then I eventually ducked too because it looked like it was coming right through the windshield.
How big?
The wings were as wide as the freeway.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So
it's crazy.
And you're just to the point where, she's freaking out, and she was like, she wanted me to pull over to see if this thing was attached to the car. She just had this thing in her head that it was attached to the car. And I'm like, I think we'd probably know if it was attached to the car.
You ever see the movie Jeepers Creepers?
But eventually I did pull over to a gas station under lights, and then I checked, but no, there was nothing there.
No evidence. Wow, that's crazy.
No, but I've had people, well, you saw an owl. Yeah, it was an owl. It was 300 pounds, sure.
yeah.
And we clearly didn't see feathers on it. It was shiny skin.
Oh, that's
I could see its eyes. It was black eyes. Could see ears on it, but it looked like a human face.
That is so
like
weird.
Evil, kind of an evil looking, like you think of a gargoyle or.
That's terrifying.
Yeah, it was.
Stuff like that is terrifying.
And we took it as like, is this a bad omen? Is something bad going to happen to us? We were scared for a long time. And then that area got flooded out and the bridges all got washed away.
Get the hell out of
Right
here.
where we saw that thing. Yep.
Wow.
Just like the
They had
Mothman
100,
prophecies.
200-year flood, and it just ripped every bridge out of there and
Wow.
everything. Yep.
Can I tell you, this is kind of, so I love that. That's one of my favorite tales. Is the Mothman. It's to me like the movie, the Mothman Prophecies with Richard Gere. I just thought it was really cool. Kind of spoke to that little kid in me, right? All the prophecies, and then Indrid Cold. There's really some kind of truth to some of that. Like I thought it was just a movie, but there's really some truth.
I thought Mothman and all these winged humanoids were just BS. I was doing MonsterQuest at the time.
Yeah.
I refused to do anything on Mothman because I would just tell my producers at History, I don't have any physical evidence to examine.
Yeah.
Do you think you possibly like manifested it by putting that kind of doubt into it, maybe?
Sure. It might have, known that they hadn't done a Mothman episode. I mean, you also think about it, those episodes are beamed up into space, man. God knows they're in other solar systems by now.
Well, speaking of which, didn't you have a crazy UFO like encounter? Like, not, I don't want to use the word crazy, but it was.
Yeah, we've had some real interest. Once again, this is spaced out over 15 years. But there was one where we were on our deck, just in our bathing suits, just getting a suntan. Just a beautiful evening, nothing more. It's all we wanted to do. Put on a little lotion and lay in the sun on this beautiful day. I'm out there just 5 minutes and she starts screaming. And I'm like looking at her like, what's going on? And she's pointing and I turn over to my right and there's this black thing just hovering over the deck rail. And it's changing shape. It's going from a circle to a triangle to a diamond to an oval. And I can't get a handle on what I'm looking at. It's got like a texture on it. And, just like her, the first second or two, I thought, I'm looking at a black balloon. Like one of those Mylar balloons, those black Mylar balloons.
Uh-huh.
Clearly I wasn't. And she said, I watched it, she's talking real quiet. She's like, I watched it go around our pine tree a couple times. And then I thought it was, a balloon from a neighbor's party or something. But then when it came up to the deck, and then she said, I jerked back, and it jerked back. Like we were, it was just as shocked as she was. And I grabbed my phone. I'm doing this real sneaky. I'm not even looking. I was kind of out of the corner eyeing it. And then I go to bring it up, and the thing just shot up to the thing. And I have the footage of it. I did get it.
Wow.
And then we went in the garage, looked at the footage. I had the footage. And then we came back out to see if we could see it again. And here comes another one out of the lake. Or it could have been the same one. It came right out of the water and headed straight to the clouds. So
how big was it? It was the size of a balloon?
Yeah, I would say about that diameter when it was in the round shape.
Wow.
But it would go to this sharp triangle or diamond.
Yeah.
And then it would be a complete, like a pill shaped. And the one that came out of the water was a pill shape. And the one that we filmed, the thing when it shot up, I was literally shooting blind because I couldn't even see. I knew about where I saw it zoop to, and I just held my phone up because I figured it was far enough away that the wide angle lens would get it, and it did.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So, that's one story. Then there was another one, years later, we went bass fishing. We live on a lake. We're out bass fishing. Had a great day, beautiful, beautiful cloudless day. Had great bass fishing all day. Coming in, it's like 4:30 at night. Coming in to park the pontoon, and she starts screaming. She's like, "Look, look, look!" And I'm like, I look at the grass and the house and the trees, and it's covered with these kind of white balls. And then they're black, and then they're white, and then they're gone. They all disappear. Then they're white, then they're black, and then they're all moving. None of them stop moving. They're all over a roof. They're all over a maple tree. They're all over the yard. And I'm filming this. I get my phone right away and I boot it up really quick and I'm filming this. I maybe, I'm just floating beyond my dock, so my dock's probably 25 feet long, 30 feet long. And so I'm close and I'm getting the best footage ever in history of this phenomenon, these orbs, or whatever the frick they are. They look like they're alive. And, at first I thought they were birds. There's no wings on them. But the way they would all disappear together and then all come back black and then all come back white was so weird. So I'm filming. And finally I say, "But aren't you filming?" I said, "Get your camera and start filming this." So she grabs her camera. It takes a while to get it booted up and they start moving off. Now they're over the neighbor's roof. And then eventually they kept going. And I'm all like, get the boat docked, we tie the boat up, get in my garage again where it's dark to look at the footage. My phone won't turn on.
Come on.
Yeah, it wouldn't turn on. So I plugged it in, waited, wouldn't reboot. So I said, "Get in the car, we're going up to Sprint." So we ran up to Sprint, told these two young technicians the whole story. I said, "Dude, this is like the best footage you will ever see in your life. I can't get my phone on. Can you guys get this footage off?" And it was an Apple, I think it was an iPhone 8. And they were back there for quite a while and they came back and they said, "Dude, your phone's a brick. We can't even get power through it." Wow. So then I took it to, they suggested another tech, took it there and they said, "No, your phone's, it's non-conductive."
Wow.
The next day, all of our low voltage in our house burned out, our burglar alarm, all the HDMI ports and all the TVs in our house burned out. Thermostats burned out. My movie theater burned out, low voltage on that. Just all that kind of low voltage shit burned out. And then I was, crap. I went out and checked my pontoon. All was fried because it's an electric pontoon.
Oh.
The controller was fried. And that cost me like $1,000 to repair that. There's no insurance for UFOs burning out your low voltage. You call them with that story, and there had been no storms. I couldn't, you know what I mean? I'm not going to fraud anybody. So it cost me about maybe close to $10,000.
Holy
6, 7, the whole thing. Even my phone was like $900 to replace it.
Yeah, right. Wow, that's amazing.
So what is that? What were they? They look like living weird things. I don't know.
Right.
But then you're like, well, what was that, a message? Was that supernatural? Were they just natural animals? Were they space animals? We've gone through so many scenarios. We have no idea.
That's crazy, man. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I can wrap my head around the fact that they would be natural animals. I've never seen any natural animals do that kind of stuff or mess up a whole house of electronics.
But there's an ecosystem from the ground to 300 miles out in space where technically things that live differently than you and I do could survive.
Yeah.
In other words, there's a whole unexplored world, an ecosystem.
Well, let me ask you a question, actually. Speaking about something like that, it's kind of similar to that. What about those rods? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, of course. I did a whole show on it.
Yeah.
For MonsterQuest.
Yeah.
Open-minded on it. I think they could very well. Here's why. Actually, I got a chance to talk to the FBI about them.
Really?
Some agents that I actually ran into in Whitehall, New York. So let's think about this. See how surreal this is. I'm in Whitehall, New York, and I'm in the middle of nowhere. I'm up there, and we're filming about the Bigfoot incident there with, the police up there.
Yeah.
And I happened to, and then somebody had heard we were in town. They sent their news crew out to do a story on us filming in Whitehall. So this crew from New York, actual New York, the city, comes up to Whitehall to film us doing this, probably to make fun of us or whatever. But we get talking with the photojournalist, and he goes, "Dude, I want to talk to you about something." So he starts telling me about rods, right? But he said, "I have a friend in the FBI." And I said, "Well, I'd love to talk to your buddy in the FBI about these things." And because there was one that was filmed in Albany, New York, that had buzzed past an airliner. And that's where the FBI got involved. So, Long story short, he's like, "I'll get this guy up here." And I can't remember if it was that night or the next day. These two FBI agents show up, and we end up talking to them about rods.
That's crazy.
And they're
man.
like, yeah, they're real, and whatever. And because a moth wouldn't be 18 feet long.
No. Nope.
Because apparently they're filmed all sizes.
Yeah, sure.
And I did prove that you could take a moth and get a similar look, but
Yeah.
moths are too slow. They kind of have that curly Q look. But I don't think Jose was too happy with me, Escamilla. Because
some of these rods make like a Z in like a fraction of a second.
Right angle turns. Yeah.
Right. And
no, and he took me all wrong. We weren't trying to. We were just doing what we could scientifically,
right,
to see what they are. I wasn't trying to disprove it or prove it. I don't know what they are, but I think they're living creatures that just are in a different wavelength than we are. Like I said, we don't know anything. Think about the ecosystem above us.
Right.
We don't know anything about it.
Nothing.
There ain't nobody studying it.
Nope.
I can tell you this. I did study the upper atmosphere and the atmosphere for a show that I did. I did it, the world's only documentary on snow. And I really did a scientific look at snow and all of the science surrounding snow, and from flooding to avalanches to the creatures that live in the snow, to the Nivian world, to the little bacteriums that live in the world, to the insects. Anyhow, I had to really delve into the atmosphere. And there are so many creatures that live in our atmosphere that are small, microscopic, It's insane. Like, you would have no idea there would be that much life above us in the air.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow. I never thought about it.
No, nobody does. And there's nobody studying it. So you could have life forms that are just living on Pseudomonas syringae bacteriums, for instance, or algae, or, God knows, there's everything you could think of up there.
Wow, that's crazy.
Not to mention you could feed on birds.
Yeah.
Solar energy. We're finding creatures all the time that live on toxic gases, and, they get their energy from all sorts of sources. So who knows? All I know is I've seen some weird crap.
Well, while I have you here, I have to ask about this because one of my favorite topics in this kind of fringe stuff, the megalodon, or actually, what was it called?
The shark, the shark.
The El Diablo Negro, or whatever they called that.
Yeah. Diablo Rojo or whatever.
Yeah.
Red Devil.
Yes. So
that's also what they call the squid down there, the Humboldt squid. Yeah, Rojo Diablo too.
Again, for you guys who don't know, Doug is the first person to film a giant squid live in its natural habitat. People said that these things were cryptids for so long. They didn't exist. They were fake. And Doug got it on film. The very first person ever. If you haven't seen it, it's incredible. Incredible.
Yeah, history. I don't know if you've seen the new 2-hour special History did on that.
No.
They did a brand new one. And they used all the footage, and, I think I'm in it and I got credit for it, but they decided to film a few new scenes, some new interviews, new experts to look at the footage, blah, 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 to confirm for sure for history that it was an Architeuthis dux, and it was the first one ever filmed in the wild. It's called Predators of the Deep. It's on History Vault, and it's a brand new 2-hour MonsterQuest.
I'm putting it in my phone as we speak.
I know what I'm doing there.
Predators of the Deep, yep.
I'm putting it in my phone as we speak because I was always so fascinated by that.
And this one, literally, they confirm it was the first Architeuthis dux ever filmed in its natural habitat or alive.
That's amazing. So how does that feel, Doug? What is that feeling when you know that you're the first person to do something so absolutely incredible, proving something like that after everyone said for so long, like, nope, they don't exist.
Well, what gave me more of a thrill than anything is that the Smithsonian had been trying to do it for God knows how many years, for millions and millions and millions and millions, and over and over and over. And, I'm just basically this guy that just said, hey, I have an idea. Let's try this. Much cheaper than any other type of expedition. People obviously didn't believe we could do it, but I had an experience on my own. Well, I was down actually for Discovery Channel on another. I was doing what they call an exploratory doc. They wanted me and this CBS journalist to go down to Mexico and just film Humboldt squid, period. And to do a show on the Humboldt squid and how mean they are, because they are some mean bastards.
Yeah, they're aggressive.
Called, just, I think it was just going to be called Rojo Diablo. So I went down there with, caught some of the people that actually were in the MonsterQuest show. I met working for Discovery Channel.
Okay.
And we were there just to film small squid. But I snuck, nobody knows this story. I snuck a well camera, that they used for exploring wells, deep wells, with how many feet? Probably had like 1,200 feet of cable on it. So I snuck it in one of my big Pelican cases, and I made a giant mylar squid. Right, and I knew no one would let me use it. So when everybody was sleeping, we were traveling to another spot in a kind of a rundown boat, but we were going quick. I dropped my camera system with the long mylar tail on it. And I just thought, whatever, I'm just going to jig with this while we're traveling. And all of a sudden, snap, 600 tensile straight cable just snapped. Camera gone, jig gone.
Wow.
And I'm like, then I'm thinking, fuck, I've got this on footage on my recorder. So I record, and then I look, and I go and I get a tarp out of the can, I throw it over my head, and I rewind the tape, and sure shit, big suction cup on it. But it's all it shows is just one giant suction cup hitting it, And
Wow.
I'm like, so I think whatever I filmed whatever I filmed that day was an Architeuthis, but I think it was a smaller one, probably 20 some feet long. Because like Humboldt squid only get to be like 4 or 5 feet.
Right.
This was certainly, there's no way it was a Humboldt squid that could break a 600-pound
No.
Kevlar cord cable I was using.
No way.
Snapped it like it wasn't even there. So I just kept it to myself. I didn't want anybody owning it. I still have the footage. Still planned on using it for something someday. And it's just back, twap, and it's over that quick. But I knew they were down there deep.
That's
And so
incredible.
I thought, well, if I ever get a chance to do this actually on a funded thing, so what I'll do is build a big squid. I'll use rubber this time, not Mylar. I'll use, bright fluorescent colored rubber. Kind of do the same thing basically. So I just duplicated. And then the idea was then I figured, well, either a giant Architeuthis will hit the camera lure, which was, I looked at it yesterday. It's still in my storage. I got to donate that to like Lauren or somebody at the Crypto Museum, but I was just looking at it, reminiscing. And it's probably like, I don't know if you can see my arms, just 6 foot. So then the idea was to catch a big enough squid to put a camera on the squid. And we had, if you saw, it's a pretty crude way we did it. Sharpened spike onto a camera with a weight. So no matter what way the squid was going, it would always aim downwards. It would swivel. Because I figured that's where it's going to run into one aiming down.
Sure.
Because I figured they were in layer, just like those trout.
Yep.
So my theory has always been certain, even Architeuthis ducks, they have to get out of their niche where they become cannibals. They don't migrate up and down the water column. They just stay deep, and they don't lay eggs. They don't reproduce. So the giant Architeuthis ducks, I think, are the ones that don't reproduce. They never lay eggs, and they grow to these massive, sizes.
So if they don't reproduce, how are they still here?
No, the Architeuthis ducks are producing.
Oh.
Big ones.
Okay.
The ones that grow to these enormous sizes, like the kind we filmed. The tentacle on that thing was confirmed like at 1.5 feet wide. The eye like 1.5 feet wide. Biggest eye ever filmed.
Holy shit.
Yeah, it's blurry, crappy footage, but it's still, they can still measure it. You know, because we have the camera and they still measured it at 1.5 feet. It's a big eye because it's reflecting.
Oh, that's the eye?
That's the eye, that light.
Oh,
Yeah, it's the biggest eye ever filmed. It's 1.5 feet wide.
oh.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
got to be that's
have
got to
the-
be like a crazy feeling, man. It's just got to be like, jump up and down type of holy shit. Like,
Well, I felt because it was one of the first episodes I had done for History Channel. Well, first thing I went through my head was, well, hopefully they have a little more confidence in me from here on out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because to me, I was real nonchalant. You know, I didn't even call them. I didn't even tell them. I just edited the show and just submitted it. It's like, and they were, obviously they were thrilled. But then, I was kind of let down too by their reaction because they should have hired like numerous scientists. The Smithsonian called. They wanted to put a big display up in the Smithsonian Institute and do a replica of how big it was. And then it got kiboshed by some professor there.
Well, a lot of these shows, they like want to like recreate like things that happened, or like, like there's so many like false narratives or like things forced, and because there's not a lot going on. But that's the one thing about MonsterQuest. Nothing was forced. There was no narratives. It was just straight work and just so eloquently and brilliantly done. It's still on our playlist, and both are.
Well, there's people that say, "Oh, every last thing we did was fake," and I'm like, "No, it wasn't."
No, it was a great show.
Sure, it is entertaining if you're interested in science and if you're interested in that kind of stuff. But we didn't fake things. I mean, we really built equipment and spent a ton of money deploying it, and we got skunked plenty of times.
Sure.
We did film the first big Greenland shark in fresh water. That had never been done. Filmed the world's largest crocodile. The record still hasn't been beat.
How big was it?
I invented a laser measuring lens.
Right.
So they could get exact measuring on this. And
they use it for sharks today.
Pardon?
They use it for sharks now.
Yeah, now they're using it.
Yeah,
but that was my little idea. I love combining different technologies. I didn't invent the laser. I didn't invent the lens. But nobody had machined this high precision CNC contraption to lock in everything and calibrate everything. So it was dead scientific, calibrated perfect. That had never been done. And it works above and below water, which is cool.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So, the idea is to not be as intrusive. If you need to measure an animal, you don't have to capture it. You don't have to rope it. You don't have to tranquilize it. You can just film it and it's measured.
Sure. Yeah.
All automatically. Yeah, it's cool.
That's incredible. Did you ever end up seeing when you were filming the episode about the shark? Did you ever end up seeing anything that resembled a giant?
Well, the whale shark we did.
Yeah, but nothing.
Which was kind of always my thought that it was, but you don't know. We don't know that. The ocean's huge.
Yeah.
Could a megalodon? Yeah, absolutely. Could glitches happen in our timeline?
Yeah.
It's kind of another theory, it's just a glitch in the timeline.
Sure.
Where we're looking into the past,
Yeah.
Who knows? Well, but, I don't doubt witnesses, but they can be mistaken. But, no, we went at that show with full sincerity that we might see something. But in the end, I think we concluded they're just whale sharks.
Yeah. Which are still crazy, amazing.
They're massive. Yeah. They're huge.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
That's obviously, like when you're traveling so often, you're going on these adventures, you're increasing your chances of having encounters with things, but still the stuff that you've seen, this is when I start to kind of think maybe, and I know this is kind of kooky, but maybe there's something to the type of energy people give out.
It could be.
Because some people try for so long and they don't see anything ever, and then
I remember one night I was down in Mexico and we were on a boat and there was this crazy night. There were dolphins leaping out of the water in front of the boat all night, and they were covered with that bioluminescence plankton.
So cool, man.
And they were glowing blue, these dolphins, and everybody's asleep except the guy driving the captain. I'm like, I'm not going to bed. Man, this is like so cool.
Yeah.
So I'm out there, and I ended up that night landing a huge Humboldt squid that was probably, it was at least 100 pounds. And it's like, I just thought it was incredible. Everybody was sleeping, and I jig up this big Humboldt squid, and this thing siphon comes out and squirts water 30 feet in the air. And I'm out there alone. I'm kidding. And finally, I rang the bell to get people up to help me get this thing up. And so we get it up, whatever. Then later that, it was like kind of maybe 4 a.m. We see these UFOs like all over the sky, like darting all over. And the guy that was with me, that was watching with me, says, I don't believe in UFOs. And I said, well, what do you think of what you're watching? He goes, those are UFOs. He said, I can't watch this shit. And he goes back to bed.
That was his way of dealing.
Yeah, I literally cannot watch this. And he went back to bed.
Some people are like they're just more comfortable like in that false narrative. Like they'd rather live the lie than or whatever. It's comforting. That it's a security blanket.
And I get it. It just can be a little uncomfortable. But it was quite this. I watched UFOs on that night for probably a half an hour, then they disappeared. But they were just darting all over the sky, just like, zigzagging. And it was really amazing.
So when can I come with you?
Anytime. Absolutely, anytime.
That's the next question.
Let's go to Ireland.
Let's do it. Let's go look for the little people.
I hear there's Bigfoots in Ireland.
We'll film a whole show. Yeah, there are, right? Isn't there?
Yeah.
There's a couple guys out there who did a documentary, right?
There's no reason there can't be stuff.
No, of course not.
There's no reason. It's all swimmable,
Sure.
They don't call these things the water apes for nothing. And
Ireland's the greenest place I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, it's incredible.
It's just green.
Because of all the rain.
Yeah, it's green. Beautifully green.
There's still sightings in Scotland. I think there's a lot more over there than people mention. I mean, if you're in Scotland and you have a sighting of a Bigfoot, you're probably not telling anybody.
Yeah, I follow a guy on Instagram. I followed him for a while now. Sweden Bigfoot, and he, this guy he's got all kinds of evidence of them over there. So, I mean, it makes sense. They'd be everywhere. Why not?
Sure.
Why not?
I mean, there's parts of Europe that are incredibly forested.
Sure.
And when I was in Austria, I was just amazed at the forest in Austria.
Yeah.
Just inaccessible to even climb. I mean, it'd be crazy to try to walk in the forest in those hillsides in Austria. I tried a few times and I'm like, screw this. Because, I can get up a little ways grabbing onto trees, but how in the hell am I going to get back down?
Just roll.
Without ropes and crap. Oh, that's not good.
Well, this is amazing. This has been a great show. We're over 2 hours. I know you're a busy guy. I don't want to keep you. I mean, I would if I could. I'd probably sit with you for days, just pick your brain. But
well, let's just do it again. But do it soon. So here's the problem: if you have me back, we'll end up talking about the same crap.
No, we won't.
No, I'm just saying. If we're gonna do it, let's do it pretty soon, so we can still remember the content.
Okay.
So we don't cover the same content. I always feel bad because I'm like, did I talk about that already?
All right. Well,
so do it sooner than later. I'd love to get you. I got to get you guys back and get you on my show too.
That would. Oh, you kidding me? Anytime.
Yeah, Mike's already been on. He was the craziest story ever on the planet.
Probably.
It was so impromptu. I was so nervous to come on there and talk about that. But yeah, you obviously know what happened. You heard my story, so you understand why I'm reluctant to talk about it.
I get it. I get it.
My respect for you is what just made me come up there. And
I don't personally. I'm just ignorant on this whole phenomena. All the mystery. I do what I can do, but that's all I can do. Yeah. I don't know that much. 30 years. These things have outsmarted me every way but Sunday.
That's
it's
what
amazing.
They do. It's just what they do.
Yeah,
what,
they do.
what they're made to do.
These are very, very intelligent creatures.
Yes, they are.
But, everything has flaws.
Sure. Of course.
We all have flaws. We all have curiosities we can't overcome.
Yep.
We all have protection modes we can't overcome.
Yep.
Like what happened to you.
Yeah.
I think that thing was in protection mode, and it's like, I don't give a
Yeah, absolutely. He wasn't worried about anything but whatever it was he was protecting, which I believe, after the fact was his wife and baby or babies. I don't know.
Yeah,
Something.
I mean, it's a theory, but I do find it, I just don't think they walk out in the open and let you film them unless they're doing something
right
to distract you. Patty, right. Patty is a great example. I mean, she's got engorged breasts.
Yeah.
They were engorged.
Right.
I think they were just leading those boys away.
Yeah.
Like, follow me.
Somebody said that there were smaller tracks, or no? Am I thinking of something different?
No, there were no smaller tracks found, but they weren't looking for that.
Okay.
There were smaller tracks found at Bluff Creek. Don't get me wrong there.
Yeah.
But it was just the perfect storm. There was that big log pile, big log jam. You got the noisy stream. You got two guys on basically Shetland, or Roger was on a real small pony. It probably sounded like an elk. Yep. I can't even remember what size horse. I think Bob was on a smaller horse too.
Yeah.
And anyhow, they just, they busted that thing, and it just went, oops, I'm going to take you over here because my kid's over here.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Because it walked totally out in the open.
It did, yeah. And I mean, not only walked down the open, stared at them almost like it was trying to get them to get their attention,
Yeah.
Like, hey, look at me, make eye contact, and now follow me.
Right.
Yeah, it's still all these years later, and it still holds up as probably the best evidence that we have.
Yeah, I mean, it really is in a lot of ways. I mean, the footprint evidence actually is more solid. I'm really hoping these fingerprints, face prints that we've collected, just got another handprint again. But think about it. You got all the whoops, whirls, all the latent details. You can't, sweat pores. You cannot fake this detail. It's too complex. Then you have the chemical compound of the skin oil, which is different in every primate.
Sure.
Then you have DNA, sloughed off DNA, nuclear DNA cells.
Yep.
And we've collected enough samples to do some amazing studies if we can just get funded.
Right.
Do you know who Snow White Bigfoot is on YouTube?
Yes, I do.
And tell me,
I've seen her videos, the gifting and all that stuff.
Have you seen the ones where the arm print on the car window?
Yeah, she's one of the people that has collected. Well, I don't think she's collected, but photographed some of the prints.
That arm print is incredible. I mean,
here's the thing:
see the goosebump, like.
Yes, because they produce either from their armpits, because there's evidence now that I just got from a zookeeper that said one day he calls them his boys. He's taking care of all his gorillas. And one day the males came out with these big white bubbles bubbling out from their arm. I've never read any literature on this. Big white sticky bubbles. So that means it's really sticky and stretchy. From what he doesn't even know. Were they agitated? Were they fighting? And they smeared it on the glass. They couldn't get it off.
Get the hell out of here.
And it's the same white crap that I've been talking about, how their skin oil is more waxy. It's why we call it vernix. Yeah. Alba vernix meaning white. And vernix is the wax coating babies are born with.
When they leave stuff on glass, if you have a dirty windshield or like a wet windshield and you write your name in it or whatever, clean me, the stuff that they leave is not the same.
No, it's thick.
No.
Look, I've got people calling me from 2 years. This thing's been in the weather. Yeah. It's still on there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hard to get off.
There's a guy in Louisiana who had activity at his house for a long time, and what really made him know, he was having dog food stolen out of his garbage cans and whatnot. You'd see an eye shine over his fence, that kind of stuff. Rocks hitting the top of the house or whatever. but what really gave him the full, when he finally was like, okay, now I know, was on his sidewalk. When it got humid and the moisture in the sidewalk, kind of the sidewalk soaked it up, it produced a print. So the moisture or whatever stuck to that oil or wax or whatever that was left from the bottom of that foot on the sidewalk. But it took that perfect storm where it had to be the right humidity and then boom, there's this print. And it's still there. It's like 2 years. 2 years have gone by. It's still there.
So if you find any white, or you hear about any white handprint on a door, on glass, on a car door, paint, they seem to be able to not be able to resist shiny, smooth surfaces, which makes sense. What's high gloss in the forest? Nothing.
I gift mirrors a lot. CDs, old CDs. I gift.
Okay. Do they take them? Do they take them, Mike?
Yeah.
Okay. Go get a piece of plexiglass, at least an 1/8 inch thick. Every town has a plexiglass or a plastic store where they sell industrial plastic. Get a sheet of plexiglass. They probably sell it at a local hardware store. Cut it up into small squares. Get black or blue. I like blue. Cut it up in squares. Put a Velcro strip on one, just on the edge or on one side, on both sides, so it'll snag some of their arm hair.
Oh, I think, yeah. I mean, I have hair if you like.
Well, they'll leave you a handprint and, if not numerous fingerprints, and a nice, 20 hairs on that Velcro.
Yeah. The only reason I don't turn it in is because I'm scared of what's coming after that. You know what I mean? Like,
no, I don't know what you mean, Mike. What do you mean?
I tried to stay a little reserved because I don't know. I don't.
Okay. I'm reading between the lines. I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. I don't need anything coming to my home front. You know what I mean?
I got you. And we've had some interesting things where, I scratch my head going, guy just called me from a location who just had a sighting, calls me on my cell. And next thing you know, they're calling me back going, dude, there's a plane circling us over and over and over again. We called in the tail numbers. They do not exist.
Yep.
Yeah.
The plane did not take off. Did not take off from anywhere. There's no record. These are people that are pilots and know.
Sure.
And they're like, what are the chances of that? We just had a sighting here. And now there's government or some damn plane circling around the area.
It's almost immediate. The Black Hawk.
Yeah, they called me within 5 minutes, and there's a plane circling the property.
Yeah, for me, it's Black Hawk helicopters. It's not planes.
Okay. You sound like a crazy guy, Mike, was saying that.
Whatever.
But I sound crazy, but I don't know. I wasn't up there.
Yeah.
But they're telling me they called in the number that, there was the plane did not exist.
My buddy Chris in Winchester, Connecticut, Chris Reinhardt, Discover Sasquatch. I don't know if you know who he is, but
no, I don't.
He's a good researcher. He's a buddy. He's a wonderful guy. I'm actually going to do probably my research up in his area because it's very active. It's up by like the Appalachian Trail or whatever. It's the northwest corner by New York. But anyway, he's got ongoing activity up there. And he's just last week we spoke, and he told me, he was like, "You're not going to believe what's going on." I said, "Well, we don't know what." And he said, "There's a unmarked helicopter that keeps circling the house." And he tried to get the flight logs from the local airports, and and again, nothing. There was no helicopter that took off from anywhere.
Well, what I found interesting was the fact that this witness called my cell phone.
So this is not something you knew?
Oh, I knew this guy. I'm the one that sent him there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I knew the guy.
Yeah, it's probably because they called Doug. Doug's blacklisted, basically, not them.
Well, no. So you're right. I just don't know, because you just wonder: is there interest in this topic?
Oh, there's got to be. There has to be. The way that I look at this, right, is these things are probably our closest living relatives. That's at least what I would think, anyway. If you look at Melba Ketchum's studies on the DNA. If you just look at them for what they are physically, they look more like us than any other animal on the planet. So I would assume that they have to be related at least in some way down the line. So now, if they're a relative of ours, they have any sort of human DNA in them, and they're not protected, this is a humanitarian issue,
Right.
right? And that's a
Could be.
big problem for a lot of industries. I mean, if you're the logging industry is a ton of money, a ton. And I'm not saying that's even the underlying issue. I don't know. It could be any number of things. It could be because they do have some ability that maybe the government doesn't want us to know. Who the hell knows? But there's no way they don't know about them.
I don't know.
And since they do know about them and they're not telling us, why are they not telling us?
Well, I'm more open that they're interested only because of the stories that I've heard of the funding. You know, $21 million that was supposed to go to study UFO materials. Actually, it went to study Skinwalker Ranch.
Yeah.
That money, that's government. That's your money and my money that went to go study Skinwalker Ranch. That
I
kind of
didn't know
proved
that.
they're interested in the paranormal. Oh yeah,
didn't-
that's been admitted at this point. That went to study Skinwalker Ranch.
I thought the guy who bought Skinwalker Ranch,
Brandon. Yep.
Brandon.
Yep.
No, it was the one before
Bigelow.
Brandon.
Bigelow had it. Yeah.
Bigelow, right?
had you're right. So the money went to Bigelow, but not to study UFO materials, but it was to study
the
Skinwalker.
actual ranch.
Yes.
Okay.
Which includes Bigfoot,
All kinds of
weird
crazy.
wolves that couldn't be shot, orbs, blah 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 blah. Paranormal activity.
You ever done any studies on that place?
No, but I've pitched a few shows where I'm interested. I've got some ideas and things that could be done. But it's always pitching. I feel like I'm pitching in the dark because nobody has taken me up on it. I came up with a show called Moving Encounters. Really cool. All just shows where people are seeing things in their cars, planes, trains,
so
ships.
often.
Oh, some of the cases that I've researched are crazy. Like from a guy that is on fishing in Lake Michigan. He basically wakes up on the other side of the lake.
Get the hell out of here.
Goes to a friend of mine to get regressed.
What?
The guy the guy is smart enough to think, oh, he's fishing boats, might have GPS on his depth finder. So he sends the depth finder into Lawrence, finds out that the depth finder had went up to like 30,000 feet and was up at 30,000 feet for a long time. And then, you know what I mean? That kind of stuff kind of corroborated the guy's story. And his story was I just woke up on the other side of the lake.
Yeah.
I saw an object, and the next thing you know, I'm on the other side of the lake, 400 miles away or whatever.
Ooh.
But that was smart of him to come up with it. So my show was going to really dig into, I was only going to do cases with some pretty hardcore science.
Yeah.
Kind of like a MonsterQuest. Everything I'm not going to take a case on until there's a ton of new forensics that can be done.
Sure.
And it just didn't go anywhere. Nobody's like, no, nobody cares. Like, really? Okay.
Oh,
So you pitch 4 networks and they go, I don't think people aren't interested in science. I've heard that one so many times.
Oh, that's BS. I'm
I think it's
interested. I
BS
want to
too.
watch.
I think it's BS too. I think everybody's interested in science.
Absolutely.
I don't even want anybody I don't even want them to watch if they're not interested in science.
Unfortunately, there's so many lazier ways to do things now. And like
Right.
I feel like honestly that's the way it's done. Like Paranormal caught on camera. They came to me, and you know what I mean. And like they could just take people who have pre-existing things,
Right. Yes.
and hey, like, can we use
It's
this?
a
And,
cheap
like,
show to do. It's
Right.
cheap to do. It's kind of like if you take a show, the proof is out there.
But
That's my comment. I'm not going to make one.
I'm going to say something though, because I don't really give a shit. I as a fan of these subjects and somebody who wants to learn as much as I can, right, and the science behind it all, I don't want to watch the show where they're doing a recreation. I mean, I do, but I want to watch the show that's going to show me the recreation and then get into why, how, when, all that stuff. Like, you could show me the recreation, that's cool, but like it's just kind of like it doesn't take a whole lot to tell me a story that's like somebody, the guy can tell me himself, or I don't know, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
The shows that dig in are the ones that are just that are way more
Well, see, I wanted to dig in, but not do the fluff dig in. I wanted to dig in, really dig in.
Well, that's what you
There's shows that kind of pretend to do science, but they don't really do much. It's real obvious stuff that they do, and they don't really dig.
Sure.
Like if they find out something at one lab, well then God dang it, go to another lab.
Right.
Go to a better lab. Go to a lab that does this. Come be creative. Come up with a different test.
Right.
That's the kind of show I want to do.
Yeah.
Don't just settle for whatever gets thrown at you because you don't care.
You should come to the Bridgewater Triangle in Massachusetts.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't. I wouldn't come back.
It's a pretty weird
I'd go missing.
place. It's a weird.
Oh yeah,
place.
I've heard a lot of stories. I know.
Yeah.
I've heard some crazy stories. I've talked about some of them on my show.
Yeah.
There's a lot of weird stuff.
Lauren Coleman's book, awesome book that he wrote back in I think it was the 70s. But that was what made me want to start researching there. Was that book?
Lauren's books got me too in the early days.
Oh.
Because it wasn't anybody else. It was Lauren and Lauren and Lauren and Lauren. It's like there was nobody else. There was John Green.
Yeah, John Green.
But there wasn't much.
No.
And I just devoured all that stuff, the little bit that was.
Yeah.
I remember looking in the TV guide, cruising for anything on Bigfoot.
That's me still. I'm still that guy.
Ever. Yeah.
Still that guy.
But at least now there's some options.
There are, and thank God for creators on places like YouTube who can go out freely and do these things on their own time and money. Obviously, the budgets are way different than like a big production from Discovery Channel or Travel Channel, but it's still all of it's still trying to further the truth of the subject, and it's still all interesting to me.
Oh, absolutely. I was with Russell Accord from Expedition Bigfoot last weekend in Cliff.
I messaged him the other day.
Yeah, and it's these guys are doing good.
Yeah, they are.
Because they're finding witnesses. They're doing what they can do, I mean, they only have so many days. They're not in control of the budget. And
of course.
They're doing what they can do.
I think that show, Expedition Bigfoot, is one of the better shows in this subject matter so far. I think that all the people that they have on there are very credible. Yeah. And they do a great job filming it too. It's a good show. I like it.
Yeah. They canceled my damn travel channel on my cable network. They just said, no, we're not, we can't have a travel channel. So I don't have travel channel. So I have no way to watch it. Or Discovery. I guess it's on Discovery Plus too. Maybe.
Discovery Plus. That's all you got to do is pay like $4.99 a month for the streaming.
I mean, that's probably why they did it. Yeah.
That's probably because that's probably why they did it. Exactly. So you pay for the service. Gotcha. That's what I did.
They got you.
They got you.
They got me. They got you.
I'm not that bright. What can I say?
They got me too. I have it on Amazon, my Discovery Plus.
Yeah. That's because for it's somebody like me, that's a great network. There's all kinds of paranormal, Bigfoot, and everything else in between. So yeah, I had to have it.
Yeah, well, that's cool. Yeah, it's a genre that's popular. It's getting more popular. That's good.
Yeah,
it's all good. I don't know if you're sure you've heard of Zoo Book.
Yeah,
Amy Boo put together.
Mm-hmm.
Which was brilliant of her, just brilliant. And so we get together every other Thursday and just meet with other scientists that want to kind of on the down low, study the topic, hear about the topic, talk to eyewitnesses. Many of them have had their own sighting or weird, maybe something weird happened. Maybe all they did was hear a scream one time.
Yeah.
They just said there's no animal in North America. But they were interested enough. And sometimes we had like 40, 50, 60 people. Wow. In Zoo Book, and it's great.
Yeah, anything to try to keep pushing it forward,
And it does.
Right.
Yeah, we've got this Sunday, and it's not a problem because he's already been open about it. But he's a field biologist in Africa. He's doing a I asked him if he could come on Zoo Book to do a presentation. He has to do it on Sunday, so we're all getting together this Sunday. He's had 8 Bigfoot sightings in Africa.
Nice.
Doing elephant research.
Nice. So
Wow.
Go ahead, Mike.
I mean, it just clicked when you said that. So like you guys, you said you heard earlier, both of you said you heard the Sasquatch crashing through the brush and like the loud thumping, and you felt
Yes.
it.
Yeah.
See, like for me, it's the opposite. I never hear them. Like they move in silence like ninjas. So I
Well, it's because
always,
they're trying to at that time.
Right.
I
What he
always
was
thought
hearing,
that,
what he was hearing was intimidation.
Yeah.
It's a
right.
big difference. The opposite.
My thought process was always, how can something that big be so silent? And possibly it's like an elephant, that they have that padding on the bottom of their feet,
Sure,
similar
yeah.
to an elephant. Where an elephant is huge, but they're fairly quiet. When you see them approaching or whatever. At least that's something I took away from it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's possible because they're giant. So,
But could you imagine just doing elephant line research and having Bigfoot sightings in
yeah,
Africa,
no,
South Africa? But
That's
he's
awesome.
going to come. But he's going to come on Zoo Book and tell his stories. And he is a scientist. He's a field biologist, and he used to. You've heard of the Born Free documentaries and films?
Sure.
He was George Adamson's. He was the guy that would like retrain the lions to release them back into the wild again.
No way.
This is the guy that's had these
I like
sightings.
I like to think that they don't make any mistakes, and they perhaps maybe they picked him. I mean, what better person? He studies animals. He loves animals. He studies giants, nonetheless.
Yeah, you could be right. We don't know how this. If they're a paranormal animal, maybe that's what's happening. They're letting people see them that can bring the science forward. It's as good as any other theory, Mike.
Right, yeah, I agree. I just have to imagine that in Africa, if there's a Bigfoot in Africa, I would imagine that it's probably the biggest, burliest, baddest Bigfoot on the planet, just because of what Africa is like and all the other predators that are there.
Actually, if you know anything about Bergman's law, it's the opposite.
What, they're supposed to be smaller in warmer climates?
Yeah, they are. They are smaller. They're big, but not. They're more lanky and more. A little more compact down in Africa.
These things that Mark's catching in Florida do not fit that description, though. That's
true, but are they winter ones from Minnesota that have migrated down there, just followed the river bottoms and decided they did not want to tough out of 40 below weather?
Yeah,
So there's the twist.
Yep.
So here's what confuses all of us so many times is that we don't know, do they all migrate? Do just some of them migrate? Is it an individual? Is it based on age? Is it based, and then how far do they migrate? Do they migrate because that's what their family did? That's what their father taught them, but not this other group. I think they're all very individual.
I think
it confuses all of us, and it makes it very hard for us to come up with any patterns.
Well, that's why I'm very big in not making blanket statements on anything related to them.
Right. So there could be some big dang Bigfoots down in Florida, but there's also maybe some smaller, ones that are more native to Florida that don't migrate. See, this is where it gets confusing because you got your tourist Bigfoots, and then you probably got your native Bigfoots.
But so here's the catch, though.
Okay.
He's been studying the same area for 15 years now.
Okay.
And he catches the same ones over and over and over. And he goes out just about every single day.
They could be transplants.
That's true. They could be. You're right.
Absolutely. Their genetics are up north. Their bodies are now down south because they just like it down there.
He's even caught twins.
See, okay, Kyle, you don't live in Florida?
Hell no, I'd never live there.
Okay.
Sorry.
But my nephew just moved there. Why? Yeah. Because he loves it there.
Yeah.
In other words, we're individuals.
Of course. And if they have human DNA, we're all different.
Right, exactly. I just think they have very individual tastes. There could be just transplant ones that are down there. So once again, you can shoot holes in almost any theory you can come up with on migration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the problem. It's these damn things of just, because they're so individualistic, even on the food. Some probably are vegetarians. Some are probably only eating ungulates. That's all they eat. So we can't put them in a box and go, all we got to do is just put cameras on all the deer and then we'll catch a Bigfoot,
I tell people all the time, if you don't love the mystery of it and you don't love nature in general, and you're gonna drive yourself nuts.
Yeah.
You'll go nuts chasing answers.
I have an idea, and I'm not sure. I have to check it out. But maybe, what are you guys doing this Wednesday? This coming Wednesday?
Let me see.
I have an idea.
Let me see. Do you have is there a time that you're looking at?
Yeah, in 7:30 Central.
Oh, I think I'm clear.
I have an interview at 8 p.m.
Well, that's brilliant. Can you get out of it? Probably not. You mean a job interview?
No, on the show, and I would hate to, because it's Alexander Petikoff.
Oh, I love him. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
But if you're going to blow anybody off, to blow Alexander off, because he's so nice, he won't get mad.
He probably won't. And if I'm going to blow somebody off for Doug Hajicek, then...
Oh, I love Alex. He's one of the I have amazing respect for that guy.
I've never met him, but he just seems like a very, very kind guy from when we've spoken briefly.
So you were going to be on Alex's show Wednesday?
No, he's on my show.
Oh, he's coming on your show.
Coming on my show. But...
But okay, well, I still have an idea.
So
I
what's
could even
the
include
idea?
Alex. Why don't we get you, Alex, and Mike on my show, and then you guys can put it on your site.
I'm down. I'm in.
So clear it with Alex.
I'm in. I'll text him tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
I'm in.
Then Alex can put it on his too. It can be, you can label it, whatever your show is, and we can all label it whatever.
I'm in, dude.
Or cross-pollinate.
Yes, cross-pollination. Yes, I love it.
It doesn't hurt anybody.
No, helps everybody. I'm definitely in 100%.
So we'll do it. But I definitely think that you guys, I've got good rapport with both. You guys are amazing.
Well, thank you. I feel the same way about you. This is wonderful. This really was a thrilling 2.5 hours. For me, it felt like it was no time at all. It was very entertaining.
Well, that way we can just keep it going. See?
Yeah. Yeah.
So talk to Alex. We'll work it out.
I will. I'll text him tomorrow.
Yep. But I don't think Alex. He'll agree. You know, Alex. He'll agree with anything you ask him.
He seems like a very nice.
He's so nice.
Yeah. He seems like a very nice guy.
He's just so nice.
Yeah.
But that guy gets out more than a lot of people in here. It's like, I'll be here this week, and next week I'm going to Colorado, and next week I'm going to Florida, and I'll be in blah, blah, blah. And he's like, geez, Alex.
Yeah.
I was like that once at one time, too.
Yeah.
But
I would love to. I just don't have the money to do it like that.
Yeah. Well, you need a TV show.
Yeah, I'd love to have a TV show.
That'll do it.
Just
get one. So easy, Just give me just a TV show. That's all.
You never know. It could be in your future, dude.
Maybe. Who knows?
You never know.
Who knows?
All right, I'm going to say goodnight, and it was awesome, and we'll talk to you guys later.
Doug, thank you so much, man. You were amazing. This was a wonderful
thank you.
show. I'm
my
very
pleasure.
grateful. Very
my
grateful.
pleasure, for sure.
Everybody, Doug Hajicek.
Thanks, man.
Thank you. Have a great night, buddy.
All right.
Woo.
I'll let you wrap up, bro.
Mike, thank you for coming on, brother.
Thank you.
I appreciate you, man. You're amazing. Everybody, thank Mike, because without Mike, Doug wouldn't be here, and we wouldn't be going on Doug's show, which is
it'll be fun. Yeah, we'll work it out. I'll talk to you.
Incredible.
I know.
This was a great show. Great.
I'm gonna have to run it back just to listen to everything again. But
me too.
Yeah.
Me too. This is amazing. We'll talk tomorrow.
All right. All right, brother. Thank you.
All right, brother. Thank you. All right. So for everybody who was here tonight, I hope you enjoyed the show as much as I did. This was phenomenal. That guy is amazing. You can see why anybody in this field would look up to somebody like that. He is a gentleman. He is humble. He is kind. He is a wealth of knowledge. He's an adventurer. He's had some of the most amazing experiences. I knew nothing about any of these. Nothing. I did my research on his backgrounds and all the stuff he did in front of the camera, behind the camera, but I knew nothing about any of that stuff. So I heard it all with you. Just awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. And I just got invited on Doug Hajicek's show. Can you believe that? Blowing my mind. This is amazing. I don't know what I did to deserve this, but I'm thanking all the karmic gods in the universe because this is great. I'm just having a blast. I hope you guys are. I really, truly, genuinely, from the bottom of my heart, appreciate every single one of you. Cashew, I'm going to say it over and over again. You're a rock star. You are an absolute rock star. Cashew moderates on many different channels. I don't know how many. Cashew, how many? A lot, right? Quite a bit. I would say even 5 is a lot of channels to moderate because that means you're bouncing all over the place all week. And I'm guessing you probably do more than that. Am I right? Tell me I'm right in the comments. I'm waiting. 50 plus. Cans, thank you for being here, buddy. She says I do not know. A lot. And Cash puts a lot of work in. A lot of work. Shares this on so many different channels, Discords, Reddit, and that helps this channel immensely. Mike is these people. I've never met Cashew face to face. I've met Mike through the screen here, but those two people for me right now are invaluable, hands down. Just the most amazing people that I have helping me with this channel. Everybody else who tunes in obviously helps in a even crazier way. But I'm talking about like behind the scenes stuff. Those guys, please just make sure you let them know that you appreciate them too, because without them, I'm not half the person on this channel. I promise you that they're doing so much. Thank you, Steve. This show was very fun for me. Bama, Steve, Papa, T Bowie, Blues and G Music, Cashew, Lake Fairy Preparedness. Let me see who else is in here. I saw a bunch of people. Tony, Carson, Janelle, obviously Long Island. Cans, thank you for being here. Bernie, thank you for being here. Kay, Eric, brother, always leaves a wonderful comment. So many people do. I try very hard to answer all of them. Sometimes I can't get to every one of them, but I try very hard. If I don't, please remember that if I don't get to it right away, I will get to it at some point, unless I'm getting, hundreds of them a day, and then I just won't be able to keep up. Even you'd be surprised how much time it takes to answer 20 or 30 comments. It takes a long time. I'm not the fastest typer in the world. It means a lot to me. You're right, Mike. But you mean a lot to me. Please don't downplay just how much of how much you mean to this channel. A ton. So that's it. 2 hours and 37 minutes. It didn't feel like that at all to me. I hope it didn't feel like it to you. If this all works out, Wednesday, me, Mike, and Alexander Petikoff will be on Doug's show instead of this show. But we will share that to this channel. You can bet your ass. So I hope if that's the case, you'll tune in over there because I am stoked. I feel like a kid on Christmas morning right now. I probably won't sleep until then. But I hope you do get some sleep tonight. Happy Friday. It's almost Saturday. I hope the weekend treats you well. I hope you're not working. I hope you get to relax a little bit with some people you care about and you love. And I'm so grateful for every single one of you. Tomorrow night, 5 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, yours truly will be on Bigfoot Odyssey, drawing Bigfoot with Daniela and Larry Batson. I'm excited for that. I hope you all tune in. Show support for that channel. Like I said, that's what started this channel. So I will always give whatever I can to Bigfoot Odyssey. So yeah, I hope you tune in. Give Daniela some love, and Brad and whoever else is over there. It's been a hard go. And so a little love goes a long way. Trust me, I know. I feel it every day from you guys. Today was a shit day. It was a real shit day. And I got to tell you, as much as I wanted to interview Doug, I just was feeling Like I didn't want to do anything. And then, you know, just so many amazing people. And I love you all for it. So that's it. Have a great night. And remember, I had to remember it earlier. If you change the way you look at things, the things you're looking at will change. I love you. Have a wonderful night. And hopefully I'll see you all tomorrow. Peace.